Welcome back to the At Leisure Podcast. This is a show about sports, video games, movies, and basically the things we do with our leisure time, usually. But with this being our 50th episode, I want to do something a little different. For the past 3 years, we would have been talking about the NCAA tournament about this time. But to be honest, I've only watched Texas Tech play, and I've not watched any of the other teams. So I felt like it would be disingenuous to try to analyze the whole tournament. Instead, I've assembled some of the most qualified people I know to talk on a topic that has taken over my life the last 3 years, and that's being a new dad. I think I've had everyone on here before except for John, so we're just going to start with you. John, say your name, say how old and how many kids you've got, and then your favorite movie so people can remember your voice, you know.
I love it. Okay, my name is John Bird, like the flying thing. I'm just shy of 30. I'm right at 29, and I got 4 kids. The oldest is Paul. He's 7. Second is Ezra. He's 5. Our third is Josiah, but we call him Job because that's what his initials spell. And he's 3. And then Mara, our only girl, she is just coming up on a year, actually. It'll be a year in May. And then, okay, one movie that just absolutely never disappoints me is any of the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies. I love them.
Really?
I love them to death. I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan. They do great. And, it's something that, whether I want to turn my brain off or I'm just like in it, they always hit. So
okay, I've never heard anyone ever say that, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really surprised it wasn't Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, but I don't always have 4 hours. You know what I mean? Like,
all right, Gabe, since you coughed, hey, y'all all can mute at any time if you want to. So yeah. So you know,
I took the headphones off. I was trying to be safe.
Well, anyways, Gabe, you go next.
Okay, my name is Gabriel. And
sorry.
I'm a father of a 3 and almost half-year-old boy. Oh, wait, just 1 kid. That's 3. Scratch. Start. I have 2 kids. The boy is 3.5. I don't have a 3-year-old and a half-year-old. Just 3.5-year-old. And then I have a girl who's 10 months old. My favorite movie is super hard to pinpoint. Kind of depends on the day. So I'm gonna give you 2 movies if it's allowed, Brett.
I mean, it's our podcast, so yeah.
Okay. So I'll say right now, I think the best movie to exist is Dune 2, which is why I joined you on the podcast. But I think that one of the most defining movies for me for like my childhood growing up was Iron Giant. So animated movies, I'd throw Iron Giant in there as one of my favorite movies of all time.
Solid. Way to butcher the easiest question you're going to get all night. All right. Jacob, you're up.
Brett, did you ask for our age too?
Not your age, just the age of your kids. So we know what we're talking about with fatherhood. It's okay. I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
I was like, oh man, how old am I? So I'm Jacob. I'm the father of 2 girls. Noelle, our oldest, she's about to be 5. And then Rosalie, our youngest, she's 9 months, about to be 10. So life is busy, which is great. And then my favorite movie of all time, you guys could probably already guess it for me.
Walk to
Interstellar,
Remember.
baby. Oh, yes. Honestly, if I had to go back and watch that again, it would probably be number 1 up there. But Interstellar takes the cake today. That's for me, guys.
It's a very on brand for this episode.
Of course.
So
Isaiah, have you seen it?
Terrible. Yes, I've seen the movie.
It's fantastic. All right, Isaiah, your turn.
All right. My name's Isaiah. I have 1 child out of the womb and 1 child currently in the womb.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yes, thank you. So we have Eleanor, who is a little bit over a year and a half, and we have baby boy or baby girl in the womb who is about 10 weeks now. So looking forward to October when, Lord willing, that baby will be here. Favorite movie? I was looking at my movie list. The current movie that I still have at the top of my list, which is kind of wild, is Still the King.
Wow.
Which I love that movie so much.
Good movie.
Yes. So I'd have to go with that. Old Timothy.
We're big Timothy fans here. We're 3 for 4 on the movies that he's been in.
Indeed.
Well, mine too. Timothy was in there.
That's why I said 3 for 4.
Oh,
Timothy and Interstellar does not count.
He's still there.
I didn't even know he was in Interstellar.
I didn't either.
Yeah, he's the boy that rides in the truck at the beginning of the movie when they go get that drone.
He's
He
McConaughey's
looks
son.
different.
Oh, so he grows up to be the other kid.
The farmer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. This is super
Yeah,
relevant to our conversation here too. So
Duh.
that's good. Yeah.
We're talking about a kid, right?
And then y'all know my name, and I've got one kid, 2 years and 2.5. I'm just gonna say 2.5, and then another one that is 5 months old. So 2 boys, and it has been awesome. Which is kind of what inspired me to do this podcast. Is just I want to hear my friends talk about being dads and what it's like, and maybe throw this up, and then one day, maybe someday they'll hear it. And I think that'd be pretty cool. Hopefully, depending on what we say here. We can also just bury this. So we'll see.
Such a negative outlook.
Well, we got Jacob on the podcast. Who knows what's about to be said? So,
guys, only good things.
all right, yeah. All right, so we have a lot to talk about, as we've alluded to. So I'll put time cards in the for the questions in the description. But I guess let's just start with a general question. Anyone can answer first. What made you
Should you vaccinate your children?
No, let's not talk about that. Wow.
I'll sign off. That's fine.
No. Let's not derail the podcast. Anyways, what made you decide to become a parent?
Okay, I guess I'll jump on that one.
You are the expert.
Well, and this question it's just like it's the ultimate dice roll of like the most intense emotions possible. So you got to be prepared. Some people have come to it different ways.
It's funny you should say that, actually. The first thing that kind of put it in my head, I always knew I wanted kids. And I didn't really plan out when or how many or anything like that. We didn't even have names. But we had some friends that we were going to school with, and they had their first. And I just remember seeing them interact with their daughter. And she was super chill. She was super mellow. She was just funny. She was just a funny little girl. It was so cool seeing them kind of interact. And I was like, man, I want that. And so I just kind of talked to Kaylin and was like, hey, whenever you're ready, I'm ready. Let's do it. And she was not as ready right off the bat. We had been married 6 months when I first started going like, hey, hey, let's when you down, like I'm in and stuff. So that being said, it was awesome. And I'm definitely of the camp of like, man, have kids just like as soon as you and your spouse are ready, go. And the sooner the better. That's how I am. And so we saw that, that joy that my friends had, and we wanted it.
I'll say when you get married, right? And for me and Kelly, obviously, like you love this person so much, and you want to build that life together, and having kids is a part of that. So whatever that looks like for you both. But there's also something about creating life together. And that's exciting. It's its own journey. And in full transparency, Noelle was an accident. I misunderstood Kelly. And but it was the best. It was the best thing ever. And so we hands up.
Oh,
The misunderstanding or having
Yeah, what is happening?
So
let's not go into detail.
Ask more questions.
Having
into detail
having
here.
kids is the best thing ever. And to share that legacy, as time goes on, because you see others with their children, kind of like what John mentioned, and you see your friends with kids, and you want the same thing, and you want to be able to raise them in Christ, and just embark on that journey.
Yeah. For us, in our decision to have kids, I mean, me personally, my family just pops out kids, just one after the other. So I've always been around kids, and I've always worked with kids, honestly. And I've just loved it. I felt like the Lord, even before ever coming and have a relationship with the Lord just kind of put it on my heart of a love for little ones, especially little cousins, and getting to help take care of them and all that. Actually, my junior and senior year of high school, I lived with my aunt and my cousin, who was a couple of years older than me, and she got pregnant right out of high school and had a little girl. My whole junior and senior year, like I was in the house and helping in small ways, but just doing life and seeing her raise her child as a single mom. Most of that along with help from her mother. And I just developed such a sweet bond with her. And I was like, man, I desire to have that relationship with my own child one day. And then was working in with a lot of kids at that time at rec centers and things like that. And so it was kind of like a no-brainer for me that I always wanted children. And then getting married to Jameson, I mean, her dream was to become a mom. You know, that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and make that her life. And, you know, she's doing that now. So it really was a no-brainer for us once we got married that we would have children. As far as how soon and all of that, I would have said, hey, let's just go. However, it was about a year into our marriage that we actually started trying. And now we have Eleanor, and it's been great. And like I said, baby number 2 on the way. But from a biblical standpoint, I mean, you see the command to be fruitful and multiply. And I think there is a sweetness to fulfilling that. And so we, just like Jacob said, take joy in getting to raise that child. And hopefully that child one day coming to know the Lord. That's such a sweet thing for us. And so, yeah, I would say that's my answer to that question.
I think me and Emily were a little bit different in that we were both okay with being more patient on holding off and waiting. She had the idea of being finished with having kids before 30, and I was more so wanting to start around that time. But at the same time, I wasn't ever going to say no. So once she got to the point where she was comfortable and wanted to start, then we did, and we had Levi, and then we bought a house, and we're in the middle of gutting it out completely, renovating it so that we could live in it. And then we got pregnant again on accident. And I thought, oh my goodness. And the video of me finding out, I was stunned and not excited, but very excited, 10 minutes later once it kicked in. We want to have a third pretty soon. Probably will happen beginning of next year if, Lord willing. But we'll see how that goes. If it's a boy, I think we'd be okay with even one more. But if it's 2 girls, risking a third girl sounds expensive to me. So we might hold off. But we're looking forward to the idea of having 3. We just feel like one is missing right now, and we look forward to that moment of having all 3 of our kids right in front of us and just knowing in our heads like, oh my goodness, this is our family for like the rest of our lives. It's us. And we don't feel like we have that yet with just the 2. So
isn't that so weird? When we had our first kid, Ezra, it felt like the family was complete, kind of. And then when we had Ian, our second kid, it was like, oh yeah, but this isn't it. Like we're gonna have more. And so it's almost like weird. Like when the second one's born, it's like, okay, well let's get to the third one. Let's have the whole squad together.
yeah.
Funny.
How do you feel, John?
Well, I think Brett had it right. At the moment, you're like, this is it. Like this is our whole family and stuff. And you can't really grasp, man, what would another one be like? And then as soon as that other one's there, you're like, well, yeah, this kid's been around. Like Mara's 10 months old, and I'm like, she's been here for a decade, like, like whatever. And so it feels like this was always meant to be. And it's this awesome feeling. But like Gabe said too, I got all 4 of my kids in front of me today, and of course they're going nuts. But I'm like, man, this is pretty friggin' awesome.
Yeah. Well, you're one away from the full quiver, so you kind of have to.
Well, Kaylin's a firm no, and I think I'm there. I think I'm just like, I don't want to reset again.
So the squad is there. It is complete.
Unless an act of God shows up and says 5 now, yeah, I think we're done.
Well, can y'all compare being a parent to anything, or is it just its own thing entirely?
Yeah, no,
Back when I owned my dog. No, I'm just kidding.
no, I've never experienced anything like it as far as the commitment, the time, the love.
Is there like a metaphor though, or anything where?
I wouldn't call it a metaphor, but we've all seen The Office, right? There's that episode where Michael Scott goes back and he watches him as a kid, and they're asking him questions. He was at a news station, and he's like, when I grow up, I'm gonna have 100 kids so that they can all be friends with me. And then he takes it the really awkward, sad part of like, and they won't ever not be able to be friends with me. You know what I mean? But it really is like you're raising almost. I know, like I'm not their friend. I'm their dad. I get that completely. But at the same time, Paul and Ezra and Job are so eager to just be like, what do you like to do, Dad? And they want to go wherever I'm at. They want to go with me. They want to learn. They want to see, and it's, so yeah, I think that's a pretty cool thought, even though it was an incredibly awkward joke from The Office. So
I couldn't tell you if I can compare it to anything but I do echo in some ways of what John is saying. I mean, truly having a kid is just like having a shadow that talks. I mean, they just are always by your side. They're not leaving. They want to mimic you in every way. I mean, you're their world. They know nothing else other than the care and goofiness and all of the things in which we as parents are. And they soak it all in. Maybe that's the metaphor that I'd run with.
Yeah, I'd say Levi's not a shadow. He's more of like a megaphone and just complete amplification. Jacob, I think about your dad's story all the time about how y'all were on a road trip and he had to pull the car over onto the shoulder because of how many questions you were asking just so he could get out and breathe. And I have felt that so many times with Levi. And I love him to death for it. Like he's the sweetest kid ever, but man, he's got 100 questions loaded the minute he wakes up. It's not like there's no grogginess. His eyes open and he's just like, let's do this. Like it's another day. Let's go. But no, I don't have a metaphor for anything of what it's like, but just piggybacking off Isaiah, those kids, man, they're so interested in everything, stuff that you think is the most boring stuff ever. And that you've done 100 times before, like when I wake up and Emily has our espresso machine loaded, and I go, and he wants to put in the 1 teaspoon of brown sugar into it at the bottom so that he can stir it. I'm like, dude, if that just makes your morning, then you can do it. Go for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this was my question, so I've had some time to think about it. It's kind of hard. It's super hard, obviously, to think of a metaphor for parenting because it's like there's nothing like it, like we've alluded to many times. The only thing I could think of was like, did any of you play in a marching band? Okay, so I did in middle school. And if you're really good, you play in a symphony and it's like all about sustained quality. Like you can miss a few notes, but the final piece of music is still going to sound amazing as long as you're just committed to it. And you have to play in sync with your spouse in this case, for the metaphor to work. If you're both off sync, it's not going to work. The piece isn't going to sound good. And then while you're playing, it sounds beautiful. It's super satisfying. And if it's done right, you're doing it, it's feeling good through both the high notes and the low notes. And then it's hard and it always leaves you feeling tired. I was just thinking about like, man, it's like every day you wake up and you're playing the music of parenting and you're just doing it the best you can. And in the end, it's weaving something beautiful together. Obviously the metaphor only goes so far, but it's just like, I wish I'd have stuck with band.
Yeah, it goes about as far as it sounds beautiful all the time because it definitely doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I should just say middle school band then because it, rarely sounded beautiful, but when it did, it was like, wow, that was awesome.
Yeah.
All right, what's y'all's favorite part about being a parent, and what's the hardest part? I mean, I think we've alluded to some of our favorite parts. Like everything's anew again. The sky, the grass, the food, the cars, the books, the colors, everything is just like you're like living through your kid in a way. Like, man, everything is new to him. It's exciting, and then it becomes exciting to you too. You get so much secondhand joy from that, I think. And that's probably one of my favorite parts, obviously. And then like the first time they smile, laugh, say, I love you, those big moments where you're just like, golly, like, honestly, I mean, every day being a parent every day is like, you're going to get hit with like 2 gut punches of like the pure emotions that you're going to have. Most of the time it's awesome stuff. And I think that's just so far been my favorite part of just like, man, I am so much more emotional than I've ever been. It's like these kids just bring it out of you.
100%.
It's cool.
I would say it's kind of interesting, but it's like the harder things about, or the harder / annoying things about being a parent, like whether that's waking up when they're crying, or with Noelle right now, she's at that age where she can get up and go to the bathroom if she needs, but she still comes to our room whenever she needs to go and she asks for help, right? And in the moment, you're just like tired, you may have just been woken up, whatever, you can do it by yourself, but I know one day she won't ask for help anymore, and she's going to do that by herself, and she won't need dad anymore. And so I think about stuff like that in those moments of helping them, right? Because obviously Noelle, again, she's older, but Rosie being 9 months, starting over with her again, those first moments of what you said, Brett, laughter, like going to show them something really cool, like Gabe with Iron Giant, right? Showing kids Iron Giant or Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like how cool that is, right? And them falling in love with it. Them learning your quirks, them learning, the things that you love. I think that stuff is what I love most about being a parent, is those fun, hard. It's like it's all of it, truly. But I look back at those harder things and those more annoying things that I look forward to doing more with Rosie and then Noelle as she gets older.
Yeah, I think the best parts about being a dad are just the combination of all those little really, really, really sweet moments that you get that just kind of pick you up throughout your day. For me, I come home from the fire station. I leave usually around like 6:45 and I get home like close to 8:20ish. And both kids are usually up at the table and Emily has breakfast ready for them. And Levi's so excited to see me. He runs to me and, arms open big, ready for a hug. JoJo's kicking her feet like crazy, trying to just do something with the excitement she has. And so little stuff like that, and Levi wanting me to, lay with him for 10 minutes before he falls asleep. All those little moments, I try to just cash them and just hold on to them, because I feel like a lot of people say, oh, they're going to grow up. Don't let them grow up right under your eyes. And I feel like our generation is actually going to do a lot better about not letting that happen. I feel like fathers in today's world have the opportunity, for whatever reason, whether it be work through home jobs, or for me being at the fire station 24 and being at home for 48, I get to have those mornings with my kids and all those other little moments, like tucking them in and putting them down and playing with them or getting to do something with them during the day. That makes that a little bit easier on us. And for the hardest part about being a dad, I would say it's the uncontrollables, like the sicknesses, dealing with stuff that, flu, and seeing your kid that's usually an energetic, just voice box, just going absolutely limp on a couch for a week and not being able to shake it off for whatever reason. Or like when we brought JoJo home, man, we had probably just a few days with her being in good health, and then immediately followed by a month of Emily suctioning her boogers every couple hours just so she could breathe and eat at the same time without feeling like she's suffocating. And just having to sit there and just endure it, knowing that you can't do anything about it other than pray and like some really other basic, simple tasks for the kid, absolutely sucks. And so that's by far my least favorite part about being a dad, is those sicknesses and worries about, okay, what's going to happen when I'm not looking? What if the dryer caught on fire while I'm sleeping? And fires are probably just because I work in that industry. I'm sure other people don't think about that, but I'm like, I have escape routes in my head. Like, okay, if something goes south tonight and I wake up in a fog, what's going on? So stuff like that makes me anxious. When I'm gone for 24 hours, things that go bad are going to go bad when you're not there. And so getting text messages or calls from Emily or family that something happened while you're at work is just the worst. I'd say those are my two.
I would say, and the funnest part, I mean, I'm going to echo everything that everybody else has already said. It's just watching your kid, like, just wake up to the world that's around them. Like, everything is always new to them. And that's just so exciting to see, to kind of live vicariously through them, of watching those things happen for them for the first time. It's like, oh, I remember that. And I remember this. It's just such a sweet thing. And then, honestly, some of the sweetest things is just, I think I alluded to this in the first question. Like, you're their everything. You're their hero. Like, they just want to be around you. And it's similar to what Gabe said, when he walks in to breakfast and sees his children, and they're just like so giddy to see that daddy is there for breakfast or whatever it may be. There's so many moments that those times happen, and it's just like, yes, I love this. Not because, it's a boost of my own ego or anything like that, but it's just because, like, you love that child so much, and they just reciprocate that love because they know nothing else. You care for them and you nurture them. So, of course, that's all that they know to do. So it is a really sweet thing. However, I would say also one of the funnest parts right now for us in the season we're in is, even though there is obviously not much comprehension as far as a 1.5-year old, little over 1.5-year old can have in regards to like learning about the Lord or anything like that. It has been such a fun season of like singing songs about the Lord, reading Bible stories right now, because she picks up on little things, again, not comprehending them, but she hears a word and she's repeating the words. Like she loves when a song says hallelujah, she's going to be singing out hallelujah. Or when a song says Jesus, she's going to pick up on Jesus and say Jesus. And then so there's just those little sweet glimpses. And it's like ultimately the Lord is in control of all of that. And, the Lord is in control of her salvation, Lord willing, one day, and all of those things. But it is sweet just to even see those little things of like we're setting those things that we're raising her in the ways that in which she should go. And so it's cool to even see these glimpses even this soon right now. And Lord willing, those things blossom into her coming to know the Lord and love the Lord. I would say one of the hardest things about being a parent, definitely, I would also echo Gabe as far as the sickness, that's hard. But honestly, right now, for a 1.5-year old, it would be like learning how to discipline her well. We're still figuring it out. I would say, if I was playing a judgmental game, which I never want to do because everybody's situation is different, if I was to do that, I would say I think we're doing better than some, but at the same time, and I'm not talking about any of you, so don't worry. But it's like we feel like we're doing okay if we're to look around, but then if we're just keeping it and looking at ourselves, we're like, what are we doing? Like I have no idea how to discipline this little girl when we're telling her to do something and she's just like blatantly ignoring whatever we're saying and just continues to do what she's doing. Or even now at times she'll just say no. And we're like, but that's not how this works. Where are you getting this from? And so I would say that's one of the hardest things is kind of figuring out how to navigate those waters. But it's all a part of it.
Have any of y'all like figured a good way to discipline? I had that question way down. We can just skip to it real quick.
I don't know about ideas, but a funny story on that
Yeah.
topic of them just continuing to do whatever the heck they want to do. Levi was talking, and dude, he picked up this attitude with me real bad. And I said, "Boy, who do you think you're talking to?" And he stopped and he turned around. He doesn't understand the dynamic of that question. He's like, "I'm talking to you." And just turned around and walked out the room. I was like, I have this problem, man, that I cannot, if like, I try to be really intentional when I do discipline to be able to sit down and look into Levi's face. But he's just so dang cute that I can't keep a straight face when I'm trying to discipline him. And so usually it ends up with me saying, okay, I make sure that I'm calm before I take an act of discipline. I think I've done a pretty good job of that. Most times I probably haven't been perfect. And then after he's cooled down a little bit, I try to sit down with him and say, this is why that happened. And that's how my dad did it with me. And I love my dad. So I'm like, okay, I'll just follow suit with how my dad did it. But a lot of times I'll pick him up and sit him down on my knee and be like, and he's just so energetic that I have to tell him like 5 times, look me in the eyes when I'm talking to you, because he's just looking around, trying to look at this, look at that squirrel. And so I'll sit there with him and I see it and I just can't help but love him. And I'm just like, okay. And then so I'll start talking to him and he'll be taking me serious. And then the fact that he's taking me serious makes me laugh. And I'll start laughing, and then he'll be like, trying to chuckle it away too. And I'm like, oh man, I'm terrible at this.
Just want to chime in real quick to tag a little bit on to what Gabe said, as far as like he is sort of mimicking what his father did as he was growing up. It's going to look different for everybody. And if, there's anybody listening, I can tell you without a doubt, the discipline that I received as a child was not one that was healthy, and was not good. And so that's where I'm like, I have no idea in some ways how to do this. Like, I know how to do this from an aspect of like how to discipline a child and correct their behavior if we are talking about like a teacher to a child sort of thing, or counselor, if you will, to a camper or something like that, because I worked in those areas. But as far as like a parent to a kid, like, again, learning those things, trying to soak up all that I can from others around me that are doing it well. because I didn't have that modeled well for me. But at the same time, I would hope that that wouldn't scare anybody, that if they went through a rough childhood of being disciplined in a manner that probably wasn't the best, like it's okay. And like you will still be able to figure those things out as you go uh, and learn from, you know, the ways in which you were raised to hopefully do it better when you're the parent.
Yeah, I have two quick things real quick. One is about me, and then one is a jump to John. First off, I definitely don't do it as well as my dad did because, and he had the background to do it. It's a little unfair because he'd spank us and then he'd come in 20 minutes later and then he'd be like, Mijos, like, I didn't have a dad, so if I'm doing it wrong, like, I'm sorry. And then we start crying again, feeling bad that, we did something wrong after getting our butts whipped, And
I feel
so,
bad for laughing at that. That's
no. I mean,
touching.
I'm saying it lightheartedly, but it's true. Like, he had a terrible upbringing, and so he was always scared that he was doing it wrong, and we knew it, and we also knew how much he loved us. So all those moments they really hit, they registered hard, and I think I could speak on behalf of both my siblings when I say that he did a really good job of talking to us afterwards. And then John, I don't know if you remember this or not, but when we worked at Doormate, you talked about how, I can't remember what brought it up, of course, it was so many years ago, but I remember you saying, I can't wait to have kids and have a bunch of kids, and whenever it turns into the he said, she said, to be able to sit them down and just be like, okay, debate. And whoever wins this debate is the one that's probably not going to get punished. And so that was so many years ago. I'm curious if any of that's playing into effect yet.
not yet. Paul's 7, and well, here before I get into that, I want to let me tag something to Isaiah real quick. I also didn't have. I had a wonderful dad. He was amazing in certain areas, and in other areas, he's a bit of a mess, and like he was always working his butt off. And we're talking 80, 100-hour weeks just to pay for me and my 5 siblings and his wife, But that also meant when he got home, he was not fun and he was not nice if a few of us were running around being turds and stuff. So to kind of tag on to what Isaiah said, sometimes coming up from a place of maybe not having a good role model as far as like punishing children goes is in and of itself the model, if only to go the opposite direction. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that definitely helps propel you a good way. I mean, it won't take you the whole way, right? Kaylin and I, we definitely lean on some heavy biblical understanding for how we do that. But I think that's a good first step. Is I know what was wrong with maybe my upbringing or parts of it. I'm going to do opposite of that, and that's been a big thing for me because Lord knows I've heard a lot of the guys in our friend group talk about like, oh yeah, I make sure I absolutely don't punish them in anger. Well, guys, my blood pressure will hit like the freaking roof in about 5 seconds when 3 little boys are running through the house, throwing down, punching each other, stepping on Mara, spitting all over the place. I'm like, oh, bad things are coming. And so I know how my dad would have reacted to those situations. And so I have to literally just scale it back. But to Gabe's thing, I'm getting close. I'm so close to the boys understanding. Give me your argument. Give me a why. Tell me why you think you're right. Paul's there. He could talk to you all day. He's just real sharp. He's doing all this stuff. Ezra's much more of the, let's roll the dice. You know what I mean? So getting him to sit down and explain like, this is why I did that, or this is why I think he's wrong. He wouldn't be there yet, but yes, for those of you who have watched Bluey, there's this awesome episode where everyone gets together to figure out whether or not Bandit, the dad, farted in Bluey's face, and they have a courtroom. And I want that to be my house when there's a dispute with my kids. It's like, I'm going to be the judge, right? My wife will be the jury. And I want you two to be, you're the defendant, you're the prosecutor. Like, let's sit down and y'all hash this out. Best case wins, unless it's like obvious, like I can see, your knuckle prints in this guy's face or something. But that's going to be so cool. And more importantly, I mean, to a degree, some of it is going to be, like, hey, maybe don't do that. I'll pull them off to the side. But if I can just get them to conceptualize why they're doing certain things and make a case for it. Like, I didn't like the way he did that, so I punch him. And it's like, all right, well, I don't like the way you know what I mean? Like, and he's like, oh, but I think that's going to be so much fun. But again, I got to wait till my kids are a little bit older so I can throw some of that in there one day.
Yeah. I feel like if any of our homes are operating in the way that Bluey does, we're going to be doing a pretty good job.
I've only heard great things about that show. I still haven't watched it.
Dude,
Oh,
there's
Brett,
some
you got to.
episodes. There's some episodes that, like the first one that I actually sat down and paid attention to was this one that I'd mentioned, because they're like, "Oh, Dad fluffy to my face." I'm like, "What the heck does that mean?" And fluffy was just their cute way of saying he ripped one right here in my face. And so I was like, "What the heck?" And then the mom's acting like the judge and all this stuff. I was like, "This is hilarious." So
yeah, they do a good job of tending to parents with that show.
Oh, for sure.
I kind of everybody said everything that is incredibly true and valid. It's such an interesting conversation topic because everybody's like, oh, for boys it's different, for girls it's different. There's a biblical way and a non-biblical way. Which way is right? Which way is wrong? We did a parenting class, Kelly and I, through our church, and we did it with our community group, and it was awesome. I highly encourage anybody to do a parenting class, so that way you can be educated in truth, educated from the word, and have community around you to ensure that you're doing things the way that the Lord desires you to do. The bigger things that stood out in that class was sticking true to what you say you're going to do and not backing down from that. So if you say that you're going to do something, you need to do it. And so in the spur of the moment, sometimes you may say something rash or something that's not convenient, like, oh, if you do this again, we're going to leave this party, right? If you're out and about, are you really going to leave the party if your child does something crazy? Yeah, John's like, absolutely. But when they're young, they'll catch on to what you're being truthful about, what you'll stick to, what you won't, and they'll hold on to that. So sticking to what you say you're going to do is very important. And then one thing that really stood out to me the most was being firm but kind in that firmness, right? So when it comes to disciplining, there is childish and then there's foolishness. So if the example that they gave is, if your child comes into your room and they slip and fall and they break one of your family lamps, it's been your family for decades, it can't be replaced. Are you going to spank your child because they slipped and they fell and they broke that lamp? Or if they come into the room and they're kind of being roughhousing and you're telling them to stop and then they keep doing it and then they break that lamp, then do they deserve discipline, right? That's being foolish. The first one is childish. And so learning these cues and everything of that nature really helped Kelly and I as we raised our girls, right? Noelle is so good at speaking to people. She doesn't know a stranger. So for her, it's crazy. Like she'll go up to anybody in the mall and she's like, literally the other day we were at Sprouts. She saw somebody in the aisle. She's like, how did you sleep tonight or last night? And I was like, Noelle, holy moly. We were just asking people how they slept. And everybody's a trooper, but I'm just like, sorry, she doesn't know a stranger, but I'm not going to dog her for that. I want her to be, confident, kind, and all of that. But those are the few points that really stood out to me. And it's really helped Kelly and I be discipliners in our family.
In that vein, and this is just real quick, I heard a great saying that applies to this, and it was in dealing with kids and when to be heavy-handed and when not to be. And it's, they put it in the idea of you chopping down a tree, all right? And it says, the tree remembers, but the axe forgets, right? And so it's like, whenever you come in just swinging, like, I'm going to put the fear of God in them, right? I'm going to really just be a disciplinarian right now. They're going to remember this. They're about to know everything that you just put down. So it's this kind of idea of like, and I can tell you right now, I can tell you certain times when my dad just let loose on me that are just imprinted in my brain. And it's like, there's a time and a place. Like I've heard some people like, we don't yell in our house. It's like, no. There is a time and there is a place when your house has 3 boys running through, swinging, throwing junk, screaming, all kinds of stuff. There's a time and place to yell. There's a time and place to put your foot down and be a dad and be like, this will not keep going. But if every time is that, all they're ever going to hear is they're going to hear that axe hitting the tree saying, man, dad just wants to be a turd. Dad just wants to to shut our fun down. He wants to go and yell and be grumpy and stuff. And that's always stuck out to me.
Where did you hear that phrase again?
Twitter.
So where I think that origin comes from is there's a Star Wars show called Andor. We've reviewed it on the podcast, and it's talking about the government that is an oppressive regime. And the guy says that line that the axe forgets but the tree remembers. And so it's kind of funny to put that in the parenting perspective. But
that's wild.
That is crazy.
Nerd alert.
Yeah.
I never watched Andor. I don't know. But,
well, you should. Everyone should. It's amazing. It's the best Star Wars.
I've heard your spiel.
Yeah, it's incredible. But it's funny. It's funny. Okay, so y'all got real philosophical and like gave up some really good points. I was just thinking like, man, I didn't know what age to start disciplining Ezra because I just figured, when he starts knowing he's doing wrong, then we'll start disciplining him. But he wasn't even 1 yet. And we'd be like, don't do that. And then he would start doing it. And it's like, okay, well, how do you discipline a kid who's not even 1? What do you do? Now we swat him, but he can't get swatted by his mom because it doesn't work. Like she just can't, I guess something, I don't know how it is for you guys, but like the swats don't do anything when mom swats the kid.
Facts.
And so we instead have done, someone at our church brought up like, hey, we use vinegar spray. And I was like, what? And
Like
they're like, yeah, they say when he's doing something bad, it's like, open your mouth. You're going to get a spray of vinegar in there. and it has worked. It has worked because the swats weren't working anymore. So it was just like, okay. Okay, so my next question, there's so many questions I have, and we've already talked for 50 minutes, and like we've hit like 3 questions. So
all night, baby.
I'm like, oh my gosh,
Or 2.
But maybe we might have to. I don't know. It's been hard enough to get all of us together and on this Zoom call, but anyways.
John's like, sorry.
Sorry. It's my fault we're late. I'm sorry.
My next question, just kind of piggybacking off of this, is like, have you felt like you've nailed anything about parenting or anything that you wish you've done different so far? Because for me, I feel like Ezra got a little spoiled. I think we're reining it in a little bit, but it was because we didn't know how to discipline him versus like, sometimes we'd let him lead too much. It's like, hey, I want a snack. All right, we'll give you a snack. Hey, I want this. All right, we'll give you this. And then eventually it was like, okay, no, you can't have that. And then he throws a fit. And then it's like, oh, we've kind of caused this, we've tightened the screws a little bit on discipline, but I felt like at first that was something that we struggled with because, it was so fun to have a kid. And it was like, if he wants this, I want to give it to him, because it's like, you love the kid, but there are obviously you need to like create some restrictions and that's part of loving them. But yeah, I feel like for us, just to answer this question, I guess that was our, the thing that I wish we'd have done a little different, but I feel like we have nailed our bedtime routine and potty training. We are struggling a little bit right now because we have 2 and we're trying to figure out they share a room. And so that's kind of creating a thing. But like Ezra knew like, oh, it's bedtime. We're going to go read a book. We're going to sing Blue Skies and Rainbows and I'm going to brush my teeth and we're going to go to bed. And it's been like clockwork for so long. So it's funny how kids just pick up a routine so much easier than like adults. It's like, if you give them a routine, then they will stick to it most of the time.
One thing that we nailed, real quick, and this isn't like to pat my own back or anything like that.
Well, we're doing that a little bit.
Maybe, but I couldn't tell you how it stuck so much. But see, our bedtime routine, it always seems to vary, especially with each kid we add. It gets a little bit more complicated and difficult to wrap up.
Yeah, we're
one thing, almost every single night, we get together, all of us, or at least most of us, Mara's a little young, we get together and we pray together. And how it goes is, one of us will start, and it used to be like them fighting for who go first and all that stuff. Well, now we just kind of arbitrarily pick, and then whoever prayed gets to pick the next person and stuff. So, and the only reason I say that is it's so hard for some families to introduce God or Jesus in a way that that kids are like, oh, like I can just go and talk to him and stuff. And that's really what we were so adamant about. Is like, hey, we're going to pray. And this is why. And we've had to explain. And some of them are stupid prayers. Like, sorry. I know there's some stupid prayers, all right? Like, make Paul a butt face or something like that. Or, make one that's been going for like 2 years now is help mom, like make mommy pretty, make daddy not a grump. And I'm like, all right, like I earned that, you know what I mean? But the fact that they know, hey, we're going to go pray to God now. And they just like, all right, let's do this. That's been really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, for us, definitely echo a routine. I feel like we have nailed it as in the sense of there's a routine and she's used to the routine, and like there's bath, there is reading books, there's going down, all of that. We've kind of nailed that. And it's going to look different throughout busy weeks and all of that, but the routine is there and she's used to it, and she knows like when we get to the sequence of events, it's time to go to bed. And so she's done pretty well at that. But I will not come on here and say it was an easy point to get to. It takes a lot of work at the beginning of getting that routine down. But once it is down, it's like, oh, praise the Lord. Like we know, when she's going to be napping, even though it may not be as long as a nap as the day before or whatever it may be. Like we know that time is coming, and we also know around the time that she's going to go to bed every night, and it has helped keep our marriage like well, because we get to spend time with each other during those times. When she goes down, especially, like that's mommy and daddy time to just hang out, watch show together, do whatever we need to do, get things done around the house, clean up, all of that. And so that's something that we've definitely took much pride in, and being able to do that. What was the other half of that question, Brett? Anything you wish you had done different so far? Was that what you asked?
Yep.
Man, is there anything? I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to think on that a little bit more.
Well, I was just gonna say it's a tax question, so you have to answer both.
Yeah, exactly.
You can pick one or the other. You don't have to answer both.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just say, "Hey, I'm nailing it. I got nothing wrong. No notes."
No, definitely not. Definitely, there's things wrong, I'm sure, but the routine is nice right now.
Yeah, and we're all pretty early in this, so I'm sure it'll get even harder and harder every step.
Yeah, I don't. Go ahead.
No, I was saying I have a funny thing about the routine. One day, Kelly's sister came and she was helping Noelle with something for bedtime. And usually she doesn't do bedtime stuff because she comes over and she's just hanging out. So she does something different in the routine, and Noelle's just like, and she gets frustrated. She's like, that is not part of our routine. And she just blurted it out. So it's like kids know like what the routine is, like what bedtime entails. And growing up for me, I wouldn't say like, hey, nailed it, because I would say polished to where it's molding into something good. Or I won't say like, hey, we have it down, because there's always better. But when it comes to prayer, going to what John was talking about, ever since day one, we prayed over Noelle in her crib. We pray over Rosie in her crib. And whenever, she was able to be old enough to understand words and conversations, like we prayed for her. And I was like, hey, don't forget to pray before you eat as she gets older. Don't forget to pray before you eat. Don't forget to pray before we go to sleep. Right. So now Noelle has conversations with the Lord, and they're different prayers. So there's 3 things that Noelle says every single time she prays. She's like, dear God, thank you for my family. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for this business. And she just says this business. Yeah, this business. And I'm just like, what are you praying? What does this business mean? And apparently it was because of, for me and like for Kelly, like the type of work that we do. And that was super sweet. But growing up for me, like I remember my mom was the one who was like the prayer warrior of our home. So I remember when she would be putting us to sleep, I remember she would be praying for us. And that's something that stuck with me that I want to continue with our kids. So ever since day one, it's been that way. Now, if I could change something, if I could have gone back and changed something, it would have introduced like all the veggies and all the healthy foods to Noelle in the beginning. Now her diet's like 6 things.
Chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, boy.
And on a rotation with like 5 other things. So I wish I could have just, given her like all the veggies, like all the healthy stuff in the beginning. This is what food is. Okay. There's no such thing as a cheeseburger. I wish I could have done that differently. And so we're trying to do that with Rosie, just implement like many different things. But yeah, that's what I would say would have been different, is more of like the diet aspect of it.
To tag real quickly off of things both John and Jacob said that I did not mention, and I just remembered. I think we've also, again, I won't say we nailed it. It does sound prideful to say it, but I think we have done a good job with it, is family worship time. We're definitely still growing in it and making sure that it is a everyday discipline for us. But, you know, reading the storybook Bible that we have and singing a hymn together, either right after dinner or right before she goes down for bed, and then praying after that. Like, that has also been something that's been really sweet to have as a consistent thing, especially when we get to the prayer part that like the storybook Bible has in it. You know, I'll say, all right, it's time to pray. And she immediately is like reaching her hand out to Jameson to hold her hand so that we can all pray together as we hold hands. It's been a really sweet thing. So I'm glad that that has also been something that we have implemented in our family and have tried to stay as consistent as we can in that area.
Yeah, I won't say much, Brett, about doing or nailing anything. And even if we had, it would be literally 100% credit to Emily because she's at home with the kids every single day. And my schedule's been chaotic with the department and medic school and probationary years and all that stuff. So I'd rather just tag off the idea of praying real quick because I have some sweet memories with Levi when it comes to praying. You know, when I go every night when we lay him down, I was for a stretch, like when we first started praying with him, he was like really excited about it, and he would pray or follow me up with a prayer, and he'd pray something really silly like just pray for the ABCs, and I pray for Gatlin and Daxton, and just really the sweetest things ever that I'm just like, it sticks me. But then it turned into him not wanting to pray. And so I would ask him, hey, do you want to pray tonight or do you want me to pray tonight? And he would say, I want you to pray. And he said that for like probably 2 months or so. And finally I was like, hey, why don't you want to pray tonight and just me pray? And he said, because I'm not good at it. And it just like, and I hated hearing it. And I was like, buddy, guess what? And he's like, what? I was like, I talk to Jesus pretty regularly, and he actually loves your prayers. And he was like, really? Like, got really excited. I was like, dude, he thinks you're way better than me. And, you know, he got real excited, and he's like, okay, I'll pray. And so after that night, and that was pretty recent. That was just like, you know, within the past month or so, he's been praying with me every time that we've gone back to sleep. But that was something in his routine that he knew was coming was, okay, mommy and daddy, they're going to pray for me and they're going to pray for our family. And so there have been a couple times where, you know, we've been in the rush of things and we're trying to get the kids to sleep because we got home late, because we've been out with family or whatever. Living so close to family, I feel like is a little bit of, I don't know. It kind of hurts the schedule sometimes because you're out, you're having dinner, and then you're trying to get home in time, but you don't want to miss out with family. But yeah, we would rush to bed, put him down, and then I'd hear him crying like an hour later and be like, oh, dude, why are you crying? Why are you still awake? And I'd walk in there and he'd be like, you forgot to pray for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you can't be mad at these things ever. So, you know, sit down and pray with him again. And then the last thing would be, he's been on like, we're doing like this cleanse with him with everything he watches, because I let him watch a couple things too quickly, like Iron Giant. I let him watch, and some Avatar Last Airbender. And when I say some of Avatar Last Airbender, I mean that dude's quoting episodes. So it was just like our household background noise. And then there's one night that he was standing over me in the dark, and he's like, Daddy, you and your forefathers have devastated the balance of the world. And I'm like, bro, you need to chill out. Okay, lay down. And so that's a true story, by the way. And so we're like, I told Emily, I was like, we need to cut out. And she said this before me, so I'm not taking credit. She's like, it's time to cut out anything he's seeing that might be violent because he's going to bed. And just depending on the night, I think it's more so just that he doesn't want to go to sleep. So he's coming up with his excuses like, I need to pee, I need a water, I need a prayer. He's like, okay, I'm scared now. And we're like, are you scared? Why are you scared? And sometimes he'll give an answer, and I'm like, don't say that to me again, or I'm not coming back in here. He's a freaking guy. But no, actually, I was like, okay, we should cut out anything that might be scaring him with anything that he's watching. And he really doesn't get much screen time. Only sometimes at home he'll get a couple of episodes or something. But yeah, so we started cutting that out, and I told him, like, hey, you don't have to be scared because there's nothing here. Daddy and mommy are home. We're going to watch over you. But most importantly, Jesus is right here. You know, I tap his chest. And it's just another one of those things where he's like, really? Like, I have this invisible friend that's with me right now? And I'm like, yes, dude, he's right here and he's going to keep you safe. I promise. And he's like, oh, man. And so anyways, with prayer specifically, like those have been the moments with me that have been super sweet. And as far as things I would do differently, I don't have like one really large thing I would do differently. There's lots of little moments of like anger or frustration, or even like with ways I've talked to Emily in my own household that I'm like, I should have responded so much better. And Levi should have heard a much better example from me. And I would say more than anything, that's probably my biggest one actually, is Emily and me dealing with the frustrations of me being gone for 24 hours or 48 hours or sometimes longer than that and coming home. And she's been stressed out with kids. And then we're both exhausted, and just reminding ourselves that we have to just start fresh every day and just keep things in a loving tone and allow our kids to see a really good example. And for the most part, I think we hit those, or we try to at least, with best effort. But there are definitely moments I'm like, I wish I could take that back. But no like really big thing that like I wouldn't, I need to redo all of his schedule or all of his potty training or anything like that. But
I like what you said there, Gabe, because I agree with you. Sorry, Brett, to keep it on this one question, but I think that's so important because there's so many times where you get upset, frustrated. I've been upset and frustrated at Kelly, and she's been the same with me. And maybe we didn't like the way that we talk to each other in front of the kids, right? And you've probably heard the argument like, is it okay to argue in front of kids? Like, should they be hearing conversations like this? I would say the answer is yes, because you want them to understand what conflict is and how to overcome conflict, but what healthy conflict looks like. And so if I've ever said something to Kelly that I wasn't a fan of, and maybe Noelle was in earshot, I want to make sure that Noelle sees that I go up to Kelly and apologize to her. And I'll even call Noelle over and I'll say, hey, Noelle, Daddy did not say something very nice to Mommy. I'm wrong for that. I want her to hear from me that I was wrong, right? And say, I asked Mommy for forgiveness. I love Mommy. I love you. I want you to know what good and healthy conversation looks like. And then she's always like, family hug. And she gets in between us and she always just wants to be like lifted up. But I think that's so important because how many times have we grown up and seen like our parents or somebody we love be in an argument and you don't know what's going to happen the next day or how that argument was, right? And so I think that's very important, going on what Gabe was talking about, having healthy conversation. If something was said that wasn't, okay or kind in that moment, standing up and saying, hey, I was wrong. And these are the reasons why I was wrong and I was feeling this way. So that way for their futures, they know what to look for in a spouse or examples for friends and stuff of that nature. I think that's very important. So I love that you said that.
that's good. That's something I feel like I should adopt more, is going over to Levi after an argument that he's not involved in. And I remember Matt Chandler saying this in one of his sermons, that when he gets into those tiffs with his wife, he does what you did, Jacob, and pulls his kid aside and say, hey, Daddy was a jerk. I'm really sorry that I did that, and that you had to see me act that way to Mommy. That's not how we act to Mommy. And so that's a good reminder of something that should be implemented, at least for me.
It's good stuff. Gabe, you kind of hinted at it a little bit, but I wanted to talk just kind of in this general conversation of what are y'all's kids' relationship with screens and what are the challenges y'all have had so far? Because I know that there's been so many studies about how harmful these screens are for kids, especially the small one, especially phones. We had a psychologist come to our church talking about raising Generation Alpha and about all the challenges that have come about because of the smartphone and like all these different things. It is so easy to use a smartphone as a crutch in a lot of situations where it's like, hey, this kid is like wired right now. You give him a phone, he calms down. You're at a restaurant. You can function as normal people instead of having to just run around and chase this kid. And obviously there's there's pros and cons to a bunch of things, but what challenges have y'all had so far? Are y'all just nailing this too? I don't know.
Can I hit on this one first?
Yeah.
I like to go first. That way it doesn't sound like I'm hitting anybody else if they're doing it differently. But Emily and I try to be super conscientious about not relieving ourselves of parental duties by handing the phone to a kid for the means of it making it easier on us if we're in a public space.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been times too where like his pop or one of the grandparents, we're at a Friday night football game and he doesn't want to spend the time looking around and experiencing everything. And so he'll just ask, "Hey, can I watch animal videos?" Like, no, you don't get to have my phone for that, and you don't get to have one of your grandparents' phone for that. You're here with us, your family, enjoy the space, and if you're bored, then just be bored. And I feel like we actually do a really good job of not breaking kind of our promise to each other with handing our phone to a kid in a public space if it's alleviating pressure from us to try to keep him quiet, basically. With that, Emily and I actually, some of the studies and lectures that you sent, Brett, I watched and shared with Emily, and we watched them together, and they're very convicting. And as you know, John knows, I'm a man of stats. I love seeing like the data behind decision making and stuff like that. And so, we looked at that, we talked about it, and like we had a personal conviction about what that meant and what it should look like in our lives. And so for us, it turned into, hey, if we don't want our kids walking this path when they're 15, 16, then we shouldn't be walking it when we're 29, 30. And so for us, it ended up meaning that we deleted our social medias so that Levi's not pulling on my shirt saying daddy 5 times while I'm scrolling. And it's been helpful. I'm still not perfect at it, and I still spend a lot of time with you guys on Discord and the group chats and stuff, and sometimes I get too carried away. But it's been absolutely helpful getting rid of social media in our lives to help us to be a little bit more attentive and aware to what's going on right in front of us, especially with our kids. And I feel like it's going to really help not come off as hypocritical whenever they get to that age that all their friends have it, and to be able to say, my friends have it too. This is not a your generation thing. This is our generation, and our friends don't have it. You don't have to have it. And hopefully praying that they are going to have that type of understanding when they get to that age.
That's good. So we haven't gotten rid of social media completely, Jameson and I, but we have it centralized to just on an iPad that we share, so that we're not constantly on our phone. However, I will say Jameson is a lot better and conscious of that than I am, especially she's spending most of the days with Eleanor while I'm at work. And I still have YouTube on my phone, so I gotta like every now and then I delete it. I'm like, I don't need this. I keep watching these reels because Jacob keeps sending them to me or
I
whatever
still
it
have
is.
YouTube. I still have
Yes,
YouTube.
yes. So sometimes I do have to check myself, and Jameson has to as well, which we're kind of in that season right now. I probably need to delete it for a while just to always remain present and getting to enjoy those things. But as far as like screen time for Eleanor goes, I would say we've done a pretty good job at limiting her screen time. We didn't really introduce her to any sort of screen time until I think she was probably a year old, maybe a little bit more than that, or maybe even a little bit less. I'd have to ask Jameson for sure. But when she does get it, she gets it for 30 minutes or less. And we are only watching things that are not going to be, for lack of a better term, like corrosive to her brain. And we'll watch it together. One of us will usually watch it together with her, like
No Coco Melon.
the yeah, no cocoa melon, none of that stuff. Our big thing that we watch right now, pretty much not every day, but pretty regularly, because it's my time to just be with her while Jameson cooks dinner. We watch it's like 24 minutes episode long of Zaboomafoo. So it's just like animals, live animals. She is an animal girl, so she just loves it, watching all of that. Although, if you have watched Zaboomafoo, that claymation part of it, I do not remember it as a kid, but watching it as an adult, I'm like, this
Trippy.
is the weirdest thing ever. So we do limit her to that, but it's still funny though that even though she has gotten, so little screen time, and she gets so little screen time, even when she does get it, she would easily sit in front of a TV all day, and just watch it, even though that she's never done that before. Like, it was a big thing for us, maybe a month or so ago, to watch a full movie with her. We watched Sing, and she loved it. And she was like ready for the next one. We're like, no, that's all you get. Like, that's all you get for like 2 weeks. We're not giving you anything else. But we also we don't really, to Gabe's point, we don't or give her a phone in public or anything like that. Like, we try to keep her, in her surroundings. And if she gets bored, Jameson does a really good job at like having a toy set for her. Like if she's done with one, all right, here's another one. And we especially have to practice that discipline, especially being at church every Sunday. It's like, okay, you're done with this toy, here's another toy. And like just trying to keep her entertained with just the things that are physically around her and not just looking at a phone, because I think that as we know, there's plenty of studies out there how that can be more harmful than it is good for a child. So we try to do a good job at that.
So for Kelly and I, when it comes to the screen time, I would say over time it's changed because we had Noelle during COVID, and it was very hard to go out and do anything in the beginning without feeling, unknown, uncertain, And so we spent a lot of time in front of the screens, but we also tried to do things that were interactive. And so I will definitely say as the time and the years have gone on, it's changed. Like the stuff that Noelle watches now. Have you guys ever seen the Outdoor Boys on YouTube? It's his dad who goes camping with his children, and incredible informative videos that real life, nature, all this other stuff. It's super fun. I watch it with her, and it's so cool to see where this guy goes with his kids. We've been enjoying that a lot more recently. And then if she does, like Noelle's a little gamer girl, truly. And so with her, she does these interactive games where it uses her brain and stuff like that. I've not seen these studies as far as what screen time does to the kids, but as far as what she watches when she's here, it's maybe an hour a day as far as her focused on the TV. Our house is small. We have a decent sized yard, but we try to go out and do stuff that's more interactive and out and about. But I will say we have used a decent amount of screen time throughout the years, but we've tried to do different things to implement. In the beginning, we probably did give her the phone at the table whenever we're going out to eat, but now it's just like, hey, bring a coloring book, right? Or bring something interactive like a listening book or something to draw on. And she's done very good at that. And she's now doing it to where she writes her name and all this other stuff by herself. She doesn't need anybody to help her. So there's different things that Kelly and I have tried to be better as far as limiting screen time, no screen time. You guys know I don't have any social medias. I just have YouTube. And so
Oh yeah, we know that.
Oh yeah. I love the YouTube. But I would say that's that. I do wish sometimes like it was less screen time for sure, and I would think that Kelly would agree too. But it's convicting to hear what Gabe is talking about with relieving of the parenting duties, because we don't. Our house is small. Our house is like 1,600 square feet, and we just sit there and watch things with her too. And it's just like we're all in it together, because it's not just her by herself.
Yeah,
but
we do that too. I just mean like, my kid's misbehaving. Well, give him a tablet so that he shuts up. Type of thing.
Yeah, sort of like a pacifier type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. Is not using it as a pacifier.
Yeah, no, never anything like that.
And again, that's why I wanted to go first, in case anybody is like pro screen. I didn't want it to sound like, hey, we're doing this so great. It's just the approach that we're taking.
I'm not saying I'm pro screen. I'm not saying I'm against it, because I do
You're
believe
pro screen, bro.
Yeah.
I'm Switzerland. I'm
kidding.
I know, but it's just like for our future, right? The stuff that's going to happen with tech, AI, like all this crazy stuff, like computers and everything are our future.
You're continuing to make your case for pro screen.
Maybe it's just because it's my line of work that I'm into. Like I have no idea. So I think there's good things about it, obviously, and then obviously not so good things about it. I'm 50-50. There's got to be some divide in this podcast, okay?
I'll say this. I'm not pro screen. In fact, I'm prepared the moment my wife is down to get rid of our TV and just not have a TV. Like we don't have a proper Wi-Fi. We've been doing hotspots for years, actually, because I heard Gabe's family did that when he was growing up. He was like, yeah, we get hotspots and we just run everything. So that's what we did, because I was like, I don't want my kids to be able to just get up and sign into the internet and have free access to whatever. And, there's a whole bunch of stuff for that. I kind of wish I had gone first, because I've heard a few guys say like, yeah, I got YouTube stuff. I hate YouTube. I hate it. And if you guys do it, you go nuts. My kids are unequivocally not allowed on YouTube, and that won't change for a minute. And that's just because YouTube and stuff like it, we've gone in when they've been hanging out with their cousins, right? Who they've got tablets, they sign into YouTube and all that stuff. And it won't even be the video that they originally clicked on. It's, some algorithm given them to them later down the road. And we've just gone in onto some disturbing junk. Like my boy likes to watch Minecraft videos with his cousin. Well, when that Minecraft video is done, we walked in and it was like these zombie Batmans going around eating each other and, all kinds of weird stuff. And we were just like, no, like we're not doing that. And so it's the most heartbreaking story, but it was also one of the biggest like affirmations of like, oh, I did something right. After we kind of lay down the law and we were like, hey, Paul, you are not allowed to watch YouTube, like period. Well, my mother-in-law found Paul in the hallway in a corner, like huddled into a ball crying. And she's like, oh my God, what's wrong? And he's like, my cousins went in and they put YouTube on and I know I'm not allowed to watch YouTube. So I had to leave. And he was just sitting there so conflicted because he wants to be in there and he wants to be hanging out. But he was like, Daddy said, don't do it. And so I was like, dude, that's so heartbreaking. But thank you so much for listening to me because that's just where we put it. Now, I will, in Jacob's defense, I will say there is a time and a place for a tablet or something like that. Like our little boys, right? Paul is 7, Ezra's 5. They're both about to become, 8 and 6. And they each have their own Switch, their Nintendo Switch. And we got that because we knew of all the things, Switch is kind of like the last one to go woke and get weird. Like I don't have to worry about my kid playing a Switch game and then some transgender nonsense show up or some inappropriate stuff show up. It's Mario fighting Donkey Kong or stuff. Like, fine, whatever, go nuts. But we drive 5 hours to Fort Worth. Absolutely. You can take that Switch. You gonna stare at the whole ride? Yes. Because I don't need you, your little brother, your other little brother, and your sister all screaming for 5 hours, making me want to just slam the brakes and pull a Jacob's dad and just go outside and take a moment, right? So I kind of heard it put, travel days, like, don't count. Like, give it to them. If you're going to be in a car all day, do yourself a favor and just let them geek out for a little bit. That's okay. But, yeah, the big thing for us is I don't want my kids to just be able to sign on at 7 with no real kind of compass of what to view and what not to view, and then just go ham. So I'm very much anti-screen in the day-to-day, but there are times, yeah, let's make a big deal. Let's do this. Y'all know about when we finish reading Lord of the Rings with my kids, we're going to spend 4 hours staring at a TV watching the extended edition Lord of the Rings film. Like, that's what's happening, right? The problem is when I let them do that too much and we just watch TV, you can see forget studies. I can see a night and day difference if I go a week of no screens, no TV, no nothing with my kids versus every other, in the morning there's a movie, in the evening there's a movie. They're just little terrors. And that's just because their brain is just going like, why do I have to deal with mom and dad? I've been watching the screen for hours. That's kind of my do's and don'ts for us anyway.
Yeah. John, when we canceled our social medias, we actually had that conversation of removing the television from the house, and we're both pretty on board with it. And we have talked about more so once we sell this house and move into our next one, we'll kind of complete that idea of just removing it completely. And we've thought about just doing it here too. I don't know why we haven't, but it's kind of been more talk than game so far. But Emily brought it up again the other day, and I was like, I think it's a great idea to know that, hey, this living room is for each other, not for a TV screen. And so
for
being able to sit across
activities
and talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and also on the traveling thing, our car has the headrest with the TV screens in them, so we plug in.
Yeah.
But yeah, fortunately, Levi's not at that age yet where he can grab a remote and figure out how to go to YouTube or anything. So, and what he's watching right now, I don't know. I'm just saying this. He's watching Franklin, Little Bear, and there's this Apple TV show called Frog and Toad. It's just like the simplest, like low stimulant shows ever.
Pretty much.
But it's been good for Levi so far.
Yeah. Everyone's going to do what they think is best and all that stuff. The YouTube thing, that's just a personal conviction, and
I get it.
With that.
The algorithm's crazy.
Yeah,
it is.
I'm saying YouTube is for me. It's not for Levi.
YouTube is for me personally.
Did y'all ever do like Miss Rachel?
No,
Yeah, and she's on Netflix
No.
now.
I stopped.
We
Stop.
we
Stop, Miss
did we did
Rachel.
a couple of episodes. No,
We did a
Shame
little.
on
We
Isaiah.
did a little early with Ezra, and then we stopped as well. But it did feel like of the options, I could tell that he was learning from that show, which was kind of like, okay, well that feels good versus some of these other things. So I just wondered.
Yeah, there's some good ones on there as far as not informative shows, but like what Gabe was talking about, like low stimulant shows, like Trash Truck on Netflix. That's really good. Puff and Rock also on Netflix, which is really good. Another low stimulant
Puff and
show.
Rock. That's
Puff and Rock. It's so
Yeah, on
cute,
Netflix.
man.
My boys like the Pocoyo. They were fans of that for a little while. You know, to each their own. It's a sticky situation, especially in the day and age we live in. But I think it's just you and your wife talking, and you reach the conclusion that you think is best for your family. You know what I mean?
I always think about, how much that I stare at a screen a day, because truly at my job, I'm just staring at resumes and looking at a computer screen and being on the phone and calling these people while I'm looking at the resume on a screen. And then I'm watching videos or trainings on screens. And then I come home and Kelly and I are watching a show or something of that nature, or I'm gaming with the boys or something of that nature. Like I'm staring at a screen probably a good majority of my day. And I know that it shouldn't be that way. I know that's not what our life is filled with, all these artificial lights. And remember whenever I was telling you guys about like some brain fog that I had and I got that test done?
Mhm.
I truly don't know like what that was from, whether that was from, all the time staring at a screen, diet, or lack of exercise or whatever. But it thankfully hasn't been that way in a while, but it could be in result of the screen time. Stress, I have no idea. But
Probably
as
that
far,
built up estrogen from your office.
dude, maybe. But as far as Noelle goes, she's truly screen free like 90% of the day because she's out of the house, she's at school. And then whenever she's home, we only let her watch like a couple of episodes of a show. And then maybe she'll watch us play like a game of Fortnite or something like that. And then that's it. And so as time goes on, it's less and less because she wants to do more things like read, go to a park, be more active, which I love. I prefer it that way. I don't want it to always be, screen time, because obviously, like you just get tunnel vision and you're just staring at something, and it's just not good.
It's funny, Gabe, that you said that Levi can't figure out the remote exactly to get to YouTube. Ezra, I just thought, this might just be built into kids because we've pulled back the screen time quite a bit because we've been convicted from a lot of, what we've been learning about it. But man, the boy loves to watch himself in videos. We have like an app where we just we put everything, we put all our pictures, all our videos on an app, and it shares it with our entire family. And he loves going through that and just watching videos of himself all day long.
Yep.
And so I don't know how y'all feel about that. That one, to me, I was like, I guess that's okay. Like, but even then, if he's always wanting that, it's just too much to have a screen like that. But anyways, on the drives that we're talking about, it sounds like we're kind of in agreement. Like drives are kind of off limits where it's like, okay, well, they're stuck anyways. What are we going to tell them to do? Just stare at the back of the car. They're just not going to do that. So
I can't wait till Levi can pick up a Game Boy and
Yeah.
play during your car ride.
yeah,
Because I plan on putting what's it called, the flip one, SP, Game Boy SP, in his car seat and saying, "This is for the car. Don't bring it in the house. Don't do anything." Well, I don't know. We'll see. But just for him to know, oh, dude, I get Pokemon whenever I'm in the car.
Yeah.
Paul loves Pokemon Red.
Love
Yes,
that.
there you go.
Yeah.
He'll get on my Game Boy Color and he'll play Pokemon Red. And I'm like, yes, this is what childhood's supposed to be. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
Still a screen though. That's why I was kind of getting at that a little bit. But also back to your point of like Levi not being able to get the remote. Ezra, he had pictures pulled up. He split screen to my phone. Like I know I can do it, but I never do it. But he did it himself where he split screened this phone where he was scrolling through pictures on the bottom and watching his TV show on the top split screen. And I look back there, I'm like, how did you do that? And he said, animals. I want to watch animals. And I was like, these kids just know. Like they just live in this world where technology is just so readily available to them. Like he just knows how to do it.
Levi's kind of like, I think what Jacob was saying, his go-to is not screens. He would rather know that he's going to a park or he's going to go outside and be crazy and loud. But yeah, for the most part, he doesn't know how to really dig into those things.
Yeah. Which is
Paul
kind
can troubleshoot the internet. Like he can troubleshoot our hotspot and be like, get me on the internet. What the heck?
Yeah.
He's
I have
7.
a funny story on like operating remotes or anything like that. Eleanor had like just started walking, and then we have an Apple TV. Again, she doesn't get TV hardly any at all, but we had left like the remote out on the couch or whatever. She knows it controls the TV, and so she grabbed it and she was just pushing buttons. The TV was off, but the Apple TV can still turn on. And I was like, hey, let's put that away. And Jameson was like, no, like she's entertained right now. I'm making dinner. You're doing something, like just let her play with the remote. All right, whatever. Well, let's just find out let's see what happens. And so, she's just pushing buttons. And then Jameson's going through like our bank app and she sees like a $35 charge on our debit card, and she's like, what did you buy from Apple TV? And I was like, I didn't buy anything from Apple TV. And so I'm go look at our subscriptions or whatever, and she was just clicking buttons and bought a $35 movie. Like, first of all, what movie is worth $35 to
He said, I'm
buy?
sick and tired of these ads.
Yes, exactly. But she bought it, and I was like, "This is Jameson. This is your fault, not mine. I'm gonna recuse myself from this." No, but it's so funny. Like kids do know how to use those things though, because they even have like when you're going through to put in a refund, it's like one of the options is, my kid bought this without my permission, or it was my child's mistake or something like that, to use as like, your reason for why you're asking for a refund, which we did get a refund for it because we didn't actually watch the movie. It was some cowboy movie. We weren't interested. Just a funny story.
I like how you
I
clarified you didn't watch the movie.
One last note,
Yeah.
Brett, it was during our when Levi was only a few months old and we were seeing the pediatrician. She was talking to us about the benefits of using physical books for reading and letting your kid do that, and not trying to avoid some screen time early. And she told us that on a regular basis in today's world, kids were coming in and they didn't know how to turn a page in a book, but they knew how to scroll through their parents' phone.
That can't be true. That can't be true. That's crazy. That can't be true.
Hey, that's just my small town pediatrician.
Yeah.
And if it's in Can, Texas, I'm sure it's in Dallas and the Metroplex.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
Do you have any kids books that you love or hate? Do your kids have favorite things or favorite books?
Her favorite book, it will rotate. She has so many favorites at different seasons of her life. But right now, I would say the favorite book that we get to read, which going back to it, is the Storybook Bible. If anybody's interested in that, it's by Kevin DeYoung. He does a great job. He has the Storybook Bible, and he also has the picture book, the board book, and other different things kind of in that line of things. We love that. But she has like particular books that she likes to be read to her every night. And like I said, there's sometimes rotate. For a while, it's like, what are mouths for? What are eyes for? What are hands for? And what are ears for? Maybe I can't remember. Maybe there's only 3 actually, but they're all like God centered. Like, God made my hands for this, and God did not make my hands for this, or whatever it may be. She loved reading those for a while. Right now, what's in her rotation is like a book that one of her grandmothers got her. That's just a little pop-up book. The other one is actually a board book of the Chronicles of Narnia. That's a really sweet one. She's really loved that one recently. Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes. Her current rotation is like a 10 Little Ladybugs book. It has little plastic ladybugs in it. She loves counting the ladybugs as we go through it. I think those are her 3 in current rotation right now. But that Chronicles of Narnia, she always asks for Lion. So that's one that's definitely her favorite. But so she has books in her room, in her playroom, all of her books. She will ask for these every day, and she gets all of them out and just like blabbers to herself as if she's reading them all. So she is a book fiend, which we love.
We got the boys maybe 2 years ago. I found on Amazon a bunch of the classic I Spy books. And so I got to sit down with the boys, and we would do like a page a night, you know what I mean? And so it'd be like I Spy, like, okay, let's find all these and stuff. So those were big hits. And back up to an earlier question, one of those where I was like, just sheer rage is Ezra with one of those I Spy books, just all the way down, tore a whole page out. And I was like, they don't print these anymore, kid. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, oh man, I was losing my mind. I was seeing.
Dude, those books are hard.
Dude, they are hard, but I was like Ezra Cartwright. But another one, Dragons Love Tacos.
Oh yes,
that's a good one, and it's really fun to read to the kids because there's a page where like they're like, oh no, something's wrong, and so you get to read. You read it really fast, and the kids are like, oh my god, oh no, what's gonna happen, and all this stuff. And let's see. Of course, I'm going through Return of the King right now with the boys. We did Hobbit, Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and they're in it. They're just like, whoa, like all this wizards and spiders and all this stuff. So those are all really cool. And then after that, of course, we're gonna break into either Sherlock Holmes or the Chronicles of Narnia, one of the two.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I don't know why, but a book that I love reading to Levi or JoJo is Goodnight Moon.
Oh.
Good night, cow. Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. I'm like, why do I love this book so much?
so classic.
It's a solid one. It's solid.
I read it and I'm like, I'm ready for bed.
If you want to merge Goodnight Moon and some of those books that Isaiah was talking about, books about Jesus, there's one that's heavy that my mother-in-law, she didn't realize it was so heavy. She bought it for Paul because he loves to read. It's called The Moon is Always There. And every page it ends with, moon is always there, moon is always there. And slowly through the book, you start catching, like putting together hints and stuff through the illustrations that this little kid's parents just had a miscarriage. And so you're just reading, and of course it doesn't say that, but you can like see through like hospital visits and all this stuff. And so it's just this idea that, hey, the moon is always there. And, God made the moon. And so God always loves you. And I was like, I wasn't freaking ready for this kid's book. Like, this is brutal.
Guys, the saddest kids book ever. Do you guys remember the book called Love You Forever?
Yeah, Like You for Always.
Yes. So it's like how a mom or parents take care of a kid, and it shows how the kid gets older, and then the kid takes care of the older parents as they start passing away. I remember reading that book growing up, and my mom would read it to me, and I was like, Mom, is that going to be you one day? And she's like, not for a long time. And now seeing my parents like get into their mid 60s, about to hit their 70s, man, it hurts me because remember when my dad fell off the ladder, and I was right there when he fell off the ladder. Dude's 66 years old. Like, you never know what could happen. Somebody falls like a few feet.
You didn't catch him?
Gosh, man. What?
I was right there, guys. I just watched it.
I don't know, man. But it's just like, it's that. Golly, man.
Sorry.
And then the Mercer Mayer books. Do you guys remember those? It's like a one of the books series that she writes. It's like it has like a little aardvark on it, and like it's I Grew Up Today or All by Myself. It's like little short stories like those that are really, really good.
You say aardvark, I just think of the the meme with the closed fist for Arthur.
Yeah, no.
I'll tell you what books are the worst. Most of the books I love, especially if they rhyme, I'm about it, and I get really animated when I read. But man, the Paw Patrol books, they are the worst books ever. They're way too long, and they have no rhyme. And the plot is terrible. So when I read them, I'm like, all right, I read a page. I'll pinch like 3 pages at the same time and skip. And Levi's like, what? Like, because he knows the story. I'm like,
Definitely done that
I'm
before.
tired of reading this book, dog.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so true. They're like 30 pages for no reason.
It's ridiculous.
Paw Patrol were on a roll.
That's what, we take.
Paw Patrol books.
We take Levi to every book fair that happens at the schools because my mom and Emily's mom, they have like free credits basically for teachers to come and get books. So Levi will go up there, be amazed that these kids are so big, walk down the hallways, go into the library and pick out 2 or 3 books. And he'll pick out those, Paw Patrol books, or he'll pick out these like way too informative books that have all these facts about different animals, and then he'll bring them to me like, read this brochure of facts that I picked up at the book fair. And I'm like, this is the worst, dude. Leopards, monkeys, like, all these different types of species. Dude, he can name like 12 species of dinosaur. It's insane.
This is the worst. I would love that. I'm sick. I got sick and tired of reading Brown Bear over and over, man. I wanted to throw Brown Bear.
What do you see? I don't want to see that.
Yeah, 100%. And now I love the Dr. Seuss. Like you said, like books that
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Seuss ruled, man. I was like,
Dude,
no, they were onto something. No wonder these are so timeless.
Those are a staple too in the rotation.
Uh-huh.
But now I can't think of the back of my mind, like, man, Dr. Seuss was a dog.
John, I'm surprised you didn't bring it up. I'll bring it up since John didn't. But The Giving Tree.
Oh my gosh.
That book hits. And the first time I ever read that.
My kids yet with it.
Yeah, you need to. And don't show them the picture of the author because he's a little scary looking.
Dude, Shel Silverstein, what a freaking nut job.
Yeah. So John told me about this book again back at Doormate. I'm so shocked at how many conversations I remember having with you, John, back at Doormate. But
wait. John introduced you to The Giving Tree?
Yes, he introduced it to me.
You hadn't heard it before?
Never heard of it.
Really?
And he had told me that, hey, it's so good and it was such a big impact on my childhood, whatever, that I've actually thought about getting a tattoo of it. And I was like, okay, if it's that good, I need to read it. So he brought it to work, and I took one of my 15 toilet breaks at Doormate to go sit on the toilet and read it. And I remember being like, wow, why did that little kid's book hit so hard in this human
I
battle?
know, right? Man,
It's a really
it's a good
book.
one.
Yeah. I don't know if I've actually read it to Levi yet, but we do have it.
Yeah, only read it to them when you want to make them horribly sad.
There's a book that Ezra got, our church gives it to us, and it's called When I Pray for You. Have y'all heard of this book?
I think I've heard of
dude.
it.
You know
Who's
what?
it by?
I don't know who it's by, but I'm gonna go get it and just read a few lines to y'all. I can't get through the book. I cry. I sob. It
I
is
wanna see
so good. Well, it's so good. Yeah, let me go get it real quick. But
Levi has a few.
about emotions, like I'm so emotional. I'm like, no way in the world would I have thought a children's book would make me sob. But I'm literally like, I can't finish. I sometimes I think he picks it because he just wants to see me tear up.
Yeah.
Any show or TV movie that has like that father-son dynamic and they like hit on it hard emotionally, I can't handle it anymore. I start tearing up.
No, I get that.
Yeah. 100%.
After Brett reads this, I have to dip.
I'm waking up like 6 to get on the road around 7. We're going to see my nephew get baptized tomorrow. I'm really pumped about it, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be
Where is that
sweet.
at?
Oh, some, Calvinistic church or whatever. It doesn't matter. Got him! Although that
he's
is
actually chosen, so.
It's in Crosby, Texas, and it's where my in-laws go. And it's gonna be really cool. Paul's gonna get to see. This is the really cool part about it, right? Wherever you land on the whole, Calvinism, not Calvinism, whatever. My son tomorrow is gonna get to see one of his favorite people in the world, his cousin Wyatt, get up there in front of the church and be like, "Yeah, I accept Jesus into my heart, and I'm gonna be baptized." And I know, because I know my boy, I know he's gonna go home and he's gonna go like, "Well, I know Jesus." And so I'm like, "Oh shoot, man! Like let's freaking do this, Jesus! Like let's do it, man!" So I don't know. I'm prepared, one way or the other, for Paul to come and talk to me about it. We'll see. But
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I remember watching some people get baptized at my church and running to my dad and being like, "Dad, I want to get baptized." And I was actually super thankful because he told me, basically, he just straightforward with me was like, "I don't think you know what that means yet. So take time and think about it." And it was actually like 3 years later, coming back from a youth event, and that he was down in Guatemala at the time. And I called him and I was crying and I was like, "Hey, I'm ready to get baptized for real." And he's like, "Okay, great. We'll just wait till I get home."
Yeah.
All right, Brett, what you got for us?
Man, I'm a little worried to read this right now because I'm gonna get.
You better not cry in front of us.
Yeah.
Weep for me, Brett.
All right. From the moment I saw you, I started to pray. Big prayers and small ones I've sent God's way. I prayed as I held you when you sat in my lap. I prayed while we rocked as you peacefully napped. As you took your first steps and when you started to run, as I pushed you on swing sets or we skipped in the sun, I prayed you felt safe, full of joy and content. And when I whispered I love you, you knew what I meant. I could read this whole thing, but it even gets to the point where it's like at the end when the kid grows up and he like no longer needs you anymore, but it's like you're still praying for him. And then, oh, dude, it's really good.
I like
Should
it.
I read the whole book?
I need y'all to send. I want to, send in the Discord, send the different links to the books that we've talked about. That way we can order some more.
Yeah, I want to know that book, Brett.
Okay.
I'd love to get it and read that to the kids. But
Yeah, let's move on. Golly.
I think Jacob.
Oh, yeah,
he said he got a boogie.
Jacob, any advice you want to give before you peace out?
Man, this is awesome. This is such a gift, and truly love being able to sit here with you guys and talk about what it's like being a dad for 2 hours. I know we could go for a long time talking about it, but hopefully we could do a round 2 because there's obviously like 20 more questions left on that list. So I look forward to the next time, but you guys have been a joy.
His advice is live, laugh, love.
Oh, dude.
Oh yeah, I didn't even give advice.
Man, I can't wait till he gets off this call and we can talk smack about him.
I didn't even give advice. Just say consistency is key, right? Clarity is kind, and so you guys know more than me.
Did he just give the parenting equivalent of live, laugh, love? That's what it sounds.
Oh man, when it comes to advice on the spot, man, I'm not the guy. But
yeah, I only gave you these questions a week in advance, but whatever.
But you are right. Consistency is so important.
Yes.
Amen. Love you guys.
See you, Jacob.
Let's see. How do I get out of here?
Bye, Jacob. Yep.
That's
how you do it.
I'll ask you guys that also when we end. So,
That's why.
have y'all given up all hobbies, or have you been able to find time?
Ooh, I'll take this one. The answer is no. I didn't give up hobbies when I had kids. In fact, since having kids, and I'm at 4 now, I have done nothing but increase my hobbies. And I don't know, I may be an outlier there, but
You are. Yeah,
well,
100%.
I can give you the reason why.
Yeah, give us a secret.
The secret is Kaylin. Now, I don't really know who all has working wives or wives that stay at home or whatever, but from the moment that we had Paul, I looked at Kaylin and I said, I want you to be able to stay at home and be with the kids if that's what you want. And she was like, yeah, absolutely. So I was like, cool. And so, I'm not the richest guy, but we have always made that kind of our first thing is I'll work. I'll do 2 jobs if I have to. And I have in the past, I'll do all of that. You stay at home with the kids and you just get to be with the kids, right? Well, she's always really good about seeing me and seeing when I need to just do something else other than that's not work, that's not changing diapers. She's really good. So she'll be like, go take some time, And a lot of the hobbies I can do when it's just me and her in the room. And, at the end of the day, she'll do her stuff. I'll do my stuff. We'll have a show playing or something like that, just kind of mindlessly. That's how it goes. But just her being able to say, hey, you need a few minutes, go do this, go do that, go work on a painting or a drawing or go bookbind or something like that. And that has been huge. So it's really all thanks to Kaylin. And then as the kids have gotten older, they've actually started to take interest in some of my hobbies. And so, like, I've taught Paul a bunch of nerdy card games and board games and stuff. And I'd like to one day teach him how to bookbind. He's already sat and painted with me before. And so it really just, if you want the time, there's ways to make it. Now, I know that everyone's schedules are different. Like, I can't imagine Gabe doing the job that he does, doing clinicals and everything, and still having hobbies. Like, I just can't imagine that. So it's going to be different for everyone. But in our peculiar circumstance, it's worked out great,
I guess I'll speak for myself real quick while y'all are thinking. I acted like, oh yeah, it's really hard to do it. And, it is because you've just added so much to your life and your plate and responsibilities wise, where you had free time. Now it's not. But it doesn't really feel like you're giving up anything because when you're with your kids, this is the good stuff. This is the life. This is the relationship. Like when I'm when I'm hanging out with my son and my wife and my family, I'm not missing the hobbies that I used to do during that time, So it really isn't like a big shift, but it is, there's stuff that I enjoy doing, and I still want to do it. You do have some downtime as a parent, so or you squeeze it in so that you get to still enjoy whatever that hobby is. But it shrinks a lot. Like for me, especially if you know me, I've played a ton of video games. I always have played a lot of video games. And then, gaming has probably been the thing that's been squeezed the hardest because it's been the least important to me as a thing. But, thank goodness for the Switch and the Portal. Now I can, rock my baby and play my game at the same time and not miss a beat. But yeah, it is funny because it's like, boy, people tell you like, oh, you're gonna lose some time, and it's like, yeah, you are, but this is what you want. This is the good stuff. This is
for sure.
This is life. So
Yeah, I would say for me, I still maintain my hobbies. They just look differently, and that's the way I would have it. To your point, Brett, like getting to spend the time that I get to spend with both Jameson and Eleanor, like, of course, I love that time and I cherish that time, and I wouldn't want to give that time up to do other things. But there are times also, to John's point, where like I just need to be alone. And when I am alone, I just want to be able to do the things that I enjoy doing for me, whether that be gaming or I say running, like it's like a consistent discipline, but some sort of, just physical activity. Like I want to be doing that. But again, like all of those things have to have their time and their place. I don't just get to be in it and then just check out of it and then come back. Like if I'm going to make running consistent, which I have in the past, like I'm gonna have to do that like in the morning before Eleanor's awake while Jameson is doing, maybe her quiet time or something like that, so that I'm not taking away time that I would be spending with them. Or if I'm going to game, it's going to be after Eleanor is asleep or during nap time, or it's going to be after I've already set aside time throughout the week to make sure that Jameson and I are also spending time together one-on-one. Like there's a balance of all of those things. But yeah, I would definitely say it has to be some sort of routine in order to manage those hobbies and still be able to do it.
Yeah, I feel like I've dropped a lot of old hobbies and picked up some new ones that fit the routine better of just being a husband and father. And also kind of realized that, man, I kind of had pretty boring hobbies for the most part. Some were good.
Like
but,
what?
well, I guess I shouldn't say boring, but I just didn't have anything like unique to me type hobbies. Like you have your painting and drawings and stuff where it's like just you and you seclude yourself when you like bookmake or whatever. Like for me, my hobby was just go hang out with friends and go to the movie theaters or go play pickup basketball. So those are things that don't really fit into the schedules that we have currently. So to answer the question directly, like, did you lose your hobbies? For a lot of it, I'd say yes. But as Brett said, it's at a pretty cheap cost when you look at the reward of why you're losing those hobbies. And so, getting to experience new things with Levi or take him to a park is much more valuable to me than just leaving the house and going out to see a movie with a couple of friends that I'd probably give 2 stars and then come back home, So, yeah, but I picked up new things like with you guys encouraging, writing. I have really discovered that I love writing. And I enjoyed writing poems and stuff. I would do that a little bit in college, and then I do it a lot with my grandpa, kind of like almost as like a pen pal for a while. So yeah, I mean, I heard a pastor one time say that when you get married, I don't know, I don't want to make it sound negative in any way, but when you get married, sometimes it's a microscope on yourself and you kind of realize how selfish you are as a person, because you can kind of get focused in on my needs, my wants, my schedule, and then like just learning that cohesive joint of marriage of understanding that nothing is no longer just yours, but rather a shared space and schedule with your wife. And so I feel like the more responsibility you take on in life, that is more and more true of just understanding like all these things that I used to do when I was single are things that I'm not going to do going forward as a choice. And if you do that the right way and you're not self-centered and you're asking God to help you to be a person who serves, that should be an enjoyable process for you. But I do think for some people and some couples and couples that have, marital problems and stuff like that, I feel like this topic is something that probably comes up a lot. Well, my needs aren't being fulfilled. I'm not getting my me time, or she doesn't feel like she's getting her me time. And then they have kids, and then it turns into more of that. So I don't know where I'm going with all this, but I do think it's realistic to expect yourself to have to compromise on things that you think you love, and learning and trying to discover new things that you love to help create a more wholesome picture for your family and schedule that makes sense for everything that you have going on. So for me, I feel like, when I first got married, Emily and I had a lot of fun just hanging out together. And now the more and more kids we have, the more we realize, oh shoot, like we're really not seeing each other because most of our schedule is being dedicated to our kids. And like just a couple weeks ago, we had our budget meeting together where we went and sat down at a restaurant, went over our budget together. And we hadn't done that for months. And I was like, dude, I hate myself for not doing this with you and not sitting down and making it a priority, because we're driving, to a restaurant and you're laughing at my jokes because I'm funny when the kids aren't screaming in our ears. And we're actually enjoying this time together, and we're sitting down and getting stuff done, being productive, but at the same time, just getting to sit back and relax and be like, like breathe. It's just me and you right now. And so yeah. I don't know if that all came full circle or not, but I do think there's some stuff in life that you just give up, but the reward on the back half of that is so much more than anything that you could give up. And seeing your kids smile, having a good time with your wife, and just enjoying the simple things of life is much more than the video games I used to play or the basketball games that I used to go to, blah, blah, blah.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. Oh. All right, I got a few more questions for y'all. Did y'all take paternity leave? And John, you've kind of hinted at it, but do y'all have defined parenting roles with your spouse?
Paternity leave is hard because I feel like I have a different job with every kid that I've had so far.
Let me hit you with a few stats too, just because I had them right here with these. But I read a New York Times article about the comparisons of millennial parents to Gen X and Boomer parents. You guys are all millennials, right? I know I am.
Yeah,
Isaiah might not be. Anyways, youngin'. Anyways, the stats are pretty interesting. So the average millennial father spends 3 times more time with their children compared to the fathers in the Boomer and the X generations. 97% of millennial dads change diapers compared to 58 for Boomer and Generation X. And then still only 2% of dads take parental leave, which is up from Boomers and X. And I'm like, that can't be right. That last stat to me seems wrong because I know a lot of dads that have taken paternity leave. So that's kind of what made me ask this question for y'all.
So the paternity leave, I've worked 4 separate jobs for each of my kids' births, and I have never gotten more than 2 weeks off. Now, the caveat to that is this last time around with Mara, we were working here at this church in Sweeney, and I was told in no uncertain terms I could take the summer if that's what we thought we needed for us and our family. And so give credit where it's due. Now, we found out pretty quick, like, I'm going to go back. I got some things that I'm going to do there. I'll take the boys with me to help alleviate and stuff. But by the 4th kid, it wasn't like, oh, our lives are being turned over. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, we got another kid, All right. Yeah. That was fun, though. The second part of your question is leaving me, though. What was the second part of your question?
Do you and your wife have defined parenting roles?
So I would say yes and no. Have we ever sat out and be like, you're going to do this explicitly? We haven't. There are some things that naturally go towards me and naturally go towards Kaylin, right? Someone mentioned it earlier. I think it was you, Brett. Did you say when Danny spanks Ezra?
It's ineffective.
There's something built into a mom's brain, I think, that says, I'm going to spank this kid and not a thing is going to happen. Because whenever I'm home as well and one of the kids get in trouble, especially Ezra, he'll be like, all right, Ezra, you're getting a spanking. My Ezra, not yours. Not being weird.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, Ezra, you're getting a spanking. And he says, can mommy give me the spanking? And I'm like, no, sir, we're not doing that. And so, he's just like, oh, shoot. And so we'll take him back there. And that's one thing for me. Like, I'm not going to give you a gentle swat. I'm going to give you a spanking. So I'm the disciplinarian. Like, that's what we do. If I'm here, that's just the role I take. That's why they always like, why is Daddy so grumpy today? Was Daddy grumpy today, or were you guys literally trying to burn the house down? You know what I mean? Like, take your pick. Kaylin's definitely more of the nurturing one, of course. So anytime there's a nightmare or anytime someone's scared or upset about something, she is naturally the one that can calm them down. I'll do my best. I'm not great at it. Now, I'm sure some of that might change a little bit with Mara. She's my first girl, so we'll see how that goes. But I don't know. I don't know if it'll change very heavily or not. Who's to say?
I'll say it. There's no way I can discipline JoJo as much as I discipline Levi. It's gonna be trouble. She's just so sweet.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Hopefully I can be equal, but
It's not likely.
Yeah, I'm with you, John. Me and my wife Danny haven't sat down and said like, here are our rules. And honestly, I feel like there's the least amount of defined roles like of any generation. We really don't have a lot of you do this, I do this kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're in it together. We're doing pretty much everything together. Obviously, like my story said, like I discipline Ezra, I think a little more, mostly because it works more, not because Danny's not trying, kind of thing. And so it's just interesting to me how much that the roles used to be so defined to the point where the dads wouldn't even do diapers. And now it's not that way anymore. And I can't imagine like watching Danny do the diapers every single time and not thinking I should help out once or twice, And no shade. I know that's just a different, I know it's a different time, but like, I don't know. I would have felt really weird about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a little different with JoJo because with Levi, I was just home a lot more. So I would say way more split even with diapers. With JoJo, I have hardly changed any diapers. And a lot of that is because I've been gone for 24 hours and then I'll be gone for clinical the next day. And then I get home and I think Emily just doesn't ask me to change diapers because she'll know I'm tired or something like that. But I've changed very few diapers, like maybe a dozen or so. And that's major kudos to Emily, but also like, I need to be more aware and more hands-on of just stepping in anyways, even if I am tired or whatever. But Emily's been an absolute superhero with the two kids while I've been going to paramedic school. And I feel bad for her because a lot of people, they'll hear my schedule and it's almost like, oh, poor Gabe. And I'm like, I know it does suck, but poor Emily, dude. Like, that's what I tell all the guys at the station. They're like, how's medic school? I'm like, dude, for medic school, like, if you just attend and it's school, like go to school, do your homework, and you'll do fine, like every school. But I always bring up, like, the person who's getting beat up right now is the girl that's watching a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old at the same time by herself for sometimes 36 hours alone. So, major shout out to Emily. She's been holding the house down while all this has been going on.
Your statement, what'd you say? Like Emily's a superhero. Like moms in general are just superheroes. Like I say, there's no roles, but Danny's way better at this than I am. Like
objectively,
it's like not even close. And so
absolutely.
it's just funny because it's like we're trying, but it's like we're just not there. I don't know why. There's something there.
Dude.
Like guys, good at it.
Yeah.
And it's like
it's almost like we're designed or something.
Oh,
yes,
I know,
exactly.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there's
like the whole idea of them nursing too is like with Ezra, I felt like I was helping out quite a bit because he wasn't nursing very much, but with Ian nursing, it's like I barely help with that kid at all now, even though I'm trying. It's just like he's just so attached to mama. So
literally,
literally.
We did not define our roles either, but I mimic the same thing. The discipline typically falls under me, and that's been some tension points at times, not often. But Emily would be like, "Hey, take care of that." And I'll jump up and I'll take care of it. You shouldn't have handled it that way. Whoa. You told me to come take care of it. I'm going to take care of it quick.
Balls in my court now. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you took me off the leash. I'm going to go get them.
Okay. I can't take this back now. We're here.
Yeah. So we've had some hindsight 2020 conversations about some of those approaches that have happened on the whim. Yeah. And then what was the other part of the question?
Paternity leave.
Oh, yeah. The fire department has been incredible with paternity leave. We get off 8 shifts. And so, 7.5, but the way it works, it's 8 shifts basically. But what that means is I'm at the fire station for 24 hours and then off for 48 hours. So I get 8 shifts off in a row. That equals out to be something like 20 plus days. But that really, like I was saying at the very beginning of this podcast, I feel like it's obvious that this generation of dads really has that opportunity to not let time slip under their nose if they're just simply conscious about it and not addicted to their phones, and instead are paying attention to their kids during the day.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like I want to scream that at our generation. Like, if anybody's not feeling that way, wake up, bro, because we have really easy lives. We live in a great country right now, you know. But yeah, like, don't let it slip by. Like, we have that opportunity, not let it slip by. You know, my dad had to work 2 or 3 jobs. He didn't have that opportunity to spend every time with us. I remember we had a family vacation one time. I think it was to Broken Bow, and we played this game where, like, we sat in a circle, we pulled cards, and then, like, if it was my turn, I pulled a card, and it was basically like, my favorite color is. It was better questions than that, but other people would vote on what your favorite thing was, and then put it in the circle, and whoever was closest to the right answer started collecting points, blah, blah, blah. Man, I remember my dad maybe got one question right out of all 3 of his kids for that entirety of that game. And I remember he left the room crying because he felt like he had been absent. And it's like, not as if he had a choice. He had to do all the hours of working that he did to simply give us what we needed in life.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, I sat down with my dad pretty recently on a conversation about how I want my life to look and the opportunity that I know I have to be present for Levi, with a couple of like decisions coming up in my future that I've been processing and trying to go with. And he's like, man, I never thought about it that way. And I just feel like God has put such a peace in my heart about where my kids are with their families, how much time they spend with their kids and everything. So yeah, for the dads that are listening, if there are any dads listening, dude, just pay attention, because you really do have the
100%.
opportunity nowadays to spend time with the kids.
Yeah, I'll answer the first part of the question. As far as paternity leave goes, we've only had one. Like I said, we have one on the way. I'll preface it with, it helps so much when you have a support system, you know, especially right after, you know, the birth. So for me, I took maybe a week and a half or so off, but I was only able to do that, like go back after that week, because we had, you know, our parents here, more so Jameson's mom than anybody else, like you're helping Jameson and all of those things, and helping with Eleanor, and like just washing dishes or helping change a diaper or whatever it was. Like, it was so helpful that I was like, I'm kind of useless here. Like, I need to go do something, and it might as well be going to work if Jameson's going to be staying at home, which Jameson also stays at home. She's a stay-at-home mom, and she does a fantastic job at that. But like, as far as what the church allows, I mean, it's always like, take as much time as you need, kind of thing. And so I don't want to be abusive to that, obviously, but I will take time. And like I said, I've only done it once. And I'm sure it looks a lot different with 2 kids. But once I saw, like, okay, kind of have a good thing going, support system is here, I feel like I am free to go and do some of the things that I do have to do at my job. So that's the paternity leave aspect. To answer the second question, man, I honestly, as you read some of those stats, Brett, like, those really aren't surprising to hear, as far as like, I'm not surprised, because we do have so many options, as Gabe said, or opportunities, as Gabe said, to just be present and be aware and knowing kind of what's going on. And I think part of the reason why it's that way is because, man, we are the kids of, you know, that generation of parents. And this is no slight to our parents. I think our parents did, you know, all did, you know, a good job at raising us. I mean, whether it was raising us in a way that was healthy, or raising us through mistakes. And as we've talked about, like, we've learned from their mistakes, and we've come out better on the end, only through the Lord's, you know, kindness and provisions. Like, we have seen the way all of those have gone. And so we have been able to be who we are today, and be more present, and be more aware of those things. We've just grown. So similar to all of you guys, we have no like sort of definitive roles that we each play, but naturally, obviously, she owns, I feel like, way more roles than I do, and she does them way better than I do. And we made a little joke about it, but I genuinely think it is absolutely true. Like, we were designed that way. This is just the way it works. We share the burden on a lot of things, but oftentimes I do feel like she's carrying a greater burden than me, as she is staying home constantly with Eleanor, and she loves it. But I know that there are also seasons where I'm like, man, I'm sure that this, especially like when Eleanor's sick, like she's spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with her. I get to go do my job while she is having to constantly wipe noses, or clean up vomit, whatever it may be. Like he's in the trenches constantly. So definitely try to share the load as much as possible.
And that note, if I may, real quick, Kaylin's birthday is Monday, right? St. Patty's Day birthday. Well, I took her out Thursday. We had a whole thing in Houston. We went around, got her presents and just spoiled her. And then her friends took her out yesterday and today, like an overnight trip, which means I had the 4 kids, which is fine. Like, don't hear me complaining. But my God, to do that, and I love my kids. I don't know how Kaylin does that day in and day out.
Straight up.
The boys.
Any mice this time?
Huh?
Any mice this time?
No, those stupid mice. But this week, I need to send y'all a new update voice memo thing or something. This week, it's been our septic backing up into our bathtub. So while Kaylin's gone,
man.
with I've got all the kids, they're all running around. Mara, she wants to see me, and she refuses to take a bottle. In the midst of all this, I'm like scrubbing literal sewage out of my bathtub just so that I can shower and feel clean later that night. And so I'm over here like, Kaylin doesn't complain about this. She doesn't whine. And I'm over here like, Mara, take your freaking bottle or I'm going to lose it. I'm gonna lose mine. And Kaylin can't watch this podcast or listen to this because she would text me and I'm like, all's well, do your thing. Literally just do not ask for details because I'm not going to lie to you, but we're good. Everything's okay.
Yes, 100%.
And Mara, I'm over here waterboarding my infant to get her to drink maybe a tithe of this milk. I wasted maybe 6 out of 8 ounces just going drink your milk. And it's just she's spitting everywhere. I'm just like, women are built different. I remember, oh man, that thing that you said about Jacob's dad, I had that with Paul, but there was no stepping out of your car, right? Because Mara's not drinking. Ezra and Josiah, they're throwing punches. They're doing their thing. And Paul decides while a movie's playing to ask me a question every 5 seconds about this movie. And I was literally, every sentence I said to Paul got up an octave. I was like, I don't know, Paul. I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. Why can't you just not ask me questions right now? I can't answer your questions, pal. I'm losing my mind. And Paul's just looking at me like, okay, Dad. And I'm like, so anyway, it was, I'm glad Kaylin got a break, but I'm not built for it,
So real. Jameson has started tutoring, a couple hours a week or something like that. But in some of those times, I'm putting Eleanor down. And this was 2 weeks ago. She was texting me like, "Hey, is everything good?" And I was like, "Yeah, everything's good." Eleanor did not nap the entire 2 hours, in her crib the entire time. And I'm like, I'm not about to tell her Eleanor did not take a nap because that just ruins everything. So she got home and I was like, yeah, she didn't sleep at all. And it's your turn because I can't do this.
Your turn.
Dude.
But if you tell them it was so miserable, all they hear is, I can't go out anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
No.
100%.
Yeah, there was a time that Levi, it was really early on, and Emily was going to be gone at work for, she had a small window where she was letting me go through Fire Academy and she was working so that I could go to Fire Academy. And what that meant was I was watching Levi by myself while she was working. It was day 1. And I probably made it 3 to 4 hours in, and I was like, I'm about to have an anxiety attack in this house. I loaded Levi up. I took him to my grandma's house because she was the only one that was home at the time. And I walked into the door, and I guess I just looked like a madman because my grandma said, "Oh, honey, give me that baby." And I just handed Levi over and ran to her couch and laid down, and she took him to the back and was playing with him. And she came out later. She was like, "Did he kick your butt?" I was like, "You have no idea, Grandma." Well, of course you do have an idea because you've done it. You're one of those superheroes. But I'll just never forget her face. She knew as soon as she saw me. She's like, boy, you can't handle this.
Bless your heart.
Bless my little heart.
What are some funny situations or things that have happened just because of your kids?
Levi is a funny kid just in general. And JoJo's getting there. Her personality is developing. I don't have as many stories with her yet. I don't want anyone to think I don't love her as much. She's just a baby, so she doesn't know what she's doing. But Levi,
Yeah, right.
you know how like we've all kind of grown that sixth sense of like, yo, things are quiet, something is wrong. And I'll never forget one morning I had slipped into his room because he had cried at like 4 a.m. Instead of putting him back to sleep, I just laid with him and fell asleep. Well, I remember waking up and still being groggy and feeling to my right, and he wasn't in the bed. And then I kind of heard him playing off to the side, and I was like, he's good. The doors are shut and everything. He's not going to get out. So I just let myself fall back asleep. And I was hearing the rattling and everything. But then for a little bit, it got real quiet. And I just remember, like, oh no, like what's happened? And I opened my eyes. And as soon as I opened my eyes, this dude, who's probably like 18 months old, is holding this metal fire truck over my face, like getting ready to Hulk smash me in the face. And I was like, yo! And he brought down as fast. It's like he knew that I became aware, and he was trying to finish me. And I freaking karate chopped it out of his hand, and he fell backwards onto it. And he starts crying, and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, you almost killed me. So, yeah, that sixth sense, man, it's pretty real. And I'll let someone else go with another story because I'm sure we all have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But I'll tell another one in a little bit.
My kids never tried to kill me. I can say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. One of the funny things that's happened recently, like Dave said, there's definitely plenty as I keep thinking, but recently, and I say recently, like 2 weeks ago. Well, let me back up a little bit. During Christmas season, this was Eleanor's second Christmas, but first Christmas where she was definitely more aware, like she's walking now, she can open her presents and all of that stuff. We're reading stories to her. She's grasping a little bit of the stories and all of that, telling her what Christmas is about, kind of going back to, of course, she's not comprehending everything about, who Jesus is and all of that, but she's hearing his name and all of those things. And so we're reading Christmas books about Jesus, but we're also reading some books about Santa Claus too. One of her grandma's got her a Santa Claus book or something, and we read through it. It's like was the night before Christmas, I think. It's like books that have generic names, and like Eleanor was one of the generic names, so we got the one that has her name in it. So we're turning the pages, we read to it her every night, and we talk about Christmas and all Jesus. And so she started associating when she sees Santa Claus, she thinks Santa Claus is Jesus. So every time she's just Jesus, Jesus, we're like, no, Eleanor, it's like that's not Jesus, that's Santa Claus. And we're not going to show her a picture of Jesus because we don't really know what Jesus really looked like. So, anyways,
Santa Claus is probably a more accurate depiction than most of the Jesus
yeah,
pictures
probably. Well, Jesus never got that old to have that much gray hair, but maybe I don't know. Anyways, that's
Carpentry
like,
does.
yeah, there you go. That's a little funny in and of itself. But we're at church 2 weeks ago, and we're on one side of the sanctuary, and on the whole opposite end, other people on the opposite end, and Eleanor just starts saying Jesus, Jesus out loud, and we're like, what are you talking about? Jesus, Jesus. And so we turn around, and she's saying this pretty vocally, and there's not many people in the service yet, like we haven't started. And we turn around, and it's just an older man, long white beard, white
Yes.
hair. She just Jesus, Jesus. We're like, no, Eleanor, no, that is not Jesus.
Jesus was there with the congregation.
Exactly. And we're just like trying to tell her to stop, and she's like, Jesus. She's just like so happy that she is seeing Jesus in the flesh. We're like, I promise you that is not Jesus. Yeah, luckily I don't think anybody around us picked up on it, but we've definitely shared that story as of late. We haven't told the fellow that our daughter thinks he's Jesus, but we'll see what his reaction is to it.
Lofty standards.
Yes,
Seriously.
indeed.
Yeah. Can I tell one on behalf of Jacob?
Sure.
And
Is
if I get
I don't know.
Is this the
see if
middle of the
Jacob
night
lets
one?
you.
no, not middle of the night one. And if I get any of the details wrong, he can chew me out in the Discord or whatever. But I'm sure he has no problem me sharing. So there was a time where him and Kelly took separate cars. I think it was to church or just somewhere in public, in a parking lot that was filled with a bunch of different people who were leaving at the same time. And he had Noelle, and Noelle wanted to ride with Kelly. or was upset about not getting something in the vehicle or something like that. So Jacob was trying to strap her into her car seat, and she was just fighting him to the bone about getting into this car seat. So he starts trying to strap her, and with all these strangers around, she just starts screaming, "Somebody help! Somebody help me! Help me!" And Jacob is just turning around to this parking lot full of people and is like, "I swear, it's okay." Like, he was trying to play it calm, but he didn't want to say anything like overly suspicious. He's like, "It's okay, sweetheart," like smiling, patting her head, but also didn't want to be like, "I swear it's my child," and then look like some type of abduction. Yeah, but
Bro,
especially when he tells it, I wish he could have.
yes.
He had me in stitches going over the details of this story. But
Jacob has some great stories.
yeah, I wish he was here
about
for this
Noel.
question.
Yes,
I got an appropriate one, so you don't have to cut it, Brett.
Okay, nice.
I say more appropriate. So Paul is real energetic, but he doesn't really pick up on when it's good to be, full energetic and when not. He's a little boy, right? Well, he would greet a lot of his adult friends that he would like to see around the church by going up and just kind of punching them, like, ha ha ha. Well, I was home one Wednesday night, and I don't know where Kaylin was, but I think Paul went with my mother-in-law, and they're, at Wednesday night and all this stuff, things are done. And next to her is one of Paul's rec teachers. Well, she didn't see what happened. All she hears is this fully grown man behind her go, and then hit the floor, because Paul decided to go up and greet his teacher, start swinging, and in the nuts. And this man is crumpled on the ground, and my mother-in-law is just going like, "Oh, my grandson just ruined a guy." And so Paul, he came home and he was so embarrassed. He was like, "Oh my gosh." And we're like, "This is why." We've been telling for months, "This is why you don't punch people, kid." And he's like, "Okay.
I get it now.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm relieved that you told that story, and I'm going to share it with Emily because Levi likes to punch strangers. And she's like, "Something is wrong with our kid. He's violent." I'm like, "He's just a boy."
He's just a boy. Yeah.
So we've been potty training Ezra, and he is good. He never had a problem with like, okay, I'm going to go to the potty when I need to go to the potty, other than nighttime, but that's just kind of another thing. But recently, we hadn't really had to deal with it until now. We're going on these long drives, and he has to pee, and so we're going to gas stations to go pee, and he hadn't, like, this is probably the first time that, well, maybe the second time he had to go to a gas station to pee, and well, first, Ian just biggest blowout. It feels like babies know when you're on a long drive, and they decide to save it all for that drive. Yeah. And Ian just exploded in his diaper. It was everywhere. It's disgusting. We're getting all the wipes out, and Danny stays in there. She changes him, and I take Ezra in because he's like, I gotta pee. And so I walk in there, and it's a small bathroom, and there's a line of people. And I'm like, "No, not a line." And he's standing there and he's doing his little like pee dance, like, "Dad, I gotta pee, Dad." And I'm like, okay, well, he's never used a urinal before, but I was like, I guess we're gonna try. I was like, "This is also a toilet, Ezra. You can pee in this if you want to." "No, Dad, no." And I'm like, "We have to, son. Like, there's a line to the stall." And he's like, "I'm gonna pee my pants." I'm like, "Okay." I pull his pants down and I hold him over the urinal, and he's like, "No, Dad, no." And I'm like, "You have to pee." And then he peed all over the place, just making an absolute mess. And I'm like, I can't aim the kid. I can't do anything. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And there's a line of like two other dudes there, and they are just like laughing at us. like what else are you gonna do? And he gets done, and he's like, he makes us wait in line again so that he can finish his pee in the stall. And I get back into the car, and Danny goes, "How'd it go?" I said, "It was fine." I didn't want to. I was like, "It's fine. He did okay." But so now he still refuses to use a urinal, but it's like,
he probably never will again.
You're just
never.
Yeah, I know. And it's just like, you're in this situation, you're holding your kid, dangling him over a urinal, and you're like, "What? How did I get here?" Like, what is happening?
But Levi's growing up on 5 acres right now, so he has that freedom of just whipping it out and peeing outside absolutely just whenever he wants to. And I participated in these dragon boat races with the fire department on a day, and the field was just filled with, the public. And I turn around because Emily says, get him, get him. And this dude has just pulled his pants down in the middle of this entire space with thousands of people, and he's just whipping it and just peeing everywhere. And I went inside, and I'm like, bro, this is public. We don't get to do things in public that we do at home. And so there's been a couple other times we've had to catch him with some stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But there's so many funny moments with kids.
There's so many.
The stuff that people don't hear about with kids is like all the little sentences they say that are just so funny that they figured out how to use that.
And you're always like, where did you learn that?
Seriously?
Yeah, like Levi was crawling up on the couch the other day because he wanted to come eat his snacks with his milk and sit next to me to watch whatever we were watching. And I'm like, all right, yeah, come on up here, but be careful, don't spill your milk. And he's like, all right. And I'm like, set it right there on the stand, then climb up, then you can drink your milk again. And he's like, okay. But he's already concentrated on the task. So he starts climbing, puts the milk up on my chest, dumps it, goes down my chest. And I'm just like, dude. And he's like, Daddy, it's okay. Remember, accidents happen. And I'm like, bro, you don't get to say that after I just told you to put your milk down. But it's just another one of those things, like, you just can't be mad at it because he's just the words and the sweetness of their voice is so pure.
Yeah.
100%.
And I guess my last story for this question was that he has a couple of different breathing techniques he's gone through the past couple of years while he's frustrated with something. So it'll be like, stop, breathe, think about it, let it out, and then talk, because you can't talk when you're so frustrated. So there's a Daniel Tiger episode, which I haven't seen. I've just seen my son perform it, but it's something along the lines of stop, breathe, and he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out, whatever. And we have a little family out here that goes to Bible study with us, and her daughter was having a meltdown at the playground, and Levi, of all people, who crashes out like every day, walks up to her. He's like, hey, stop, breathe, and count to 4. 1, 2, as if he's some pro at this. And it's just the funniest thing seeing him communicate to other kids. This is how you handle this problem. So funny.
Experience.
That is a universal kid experience too. Because Ezra will look at another kid who's just losing his mind, and he'll look at me and be like, "That kid's crazy, Dad." I'm like, "I was doing that 4 seconds ago."
Yeah,
100%, 100%.
Yeah, there's so many just quick phrases and things that they say that are just so off the wall funny.
Let's end it with any advice or final things you want to say about being a parent.
So for me, I think the easiest way to think of advice is just to think about what you don't do great and then try to advise on that. And so we've kind of touched on it a little bit. I think it's really good. You think about like when you're getting married, you go to premarital counseling, and then you go into your wedding, which we didn't do premarital counseling. And I wish we had, because there's probably some questions that we could have had figured out before we got to that space. And with kids, it's kind of the same thing. And there probably is some sort of pre-child counseling or advice, or I'm sure books, but you just don't really know kind of what resources to go to. So my advice would be to find a resource that you trust, or go to your church or a leader and talk to them about difficulties that they've had with their children starting out and kind of how they approached it or how they would approach it differently, which I think this podcast, for instance, is a great opportunity to do that. So for me and Emily, for instance, we talked about discipline. Discipline would be a fantastic conversation to have with your wife before the incident happens. So like I said, Emily's told me to go get them, and I've gone and got them, and then I got afterwards because I did it the wrong way. And so, like, for instance, for me, that was in a Buc-ee's. My thought process was, if Levi wants to act a fool anywhere, then he can get it anywhere. So I just pop his butt right in the middle of a Buc-ee's. Well, Emily really didn't like the public display of it. So I thought about it. She thought about it. We ended up talking about it more. And I just think that those type of things, hey, if my kid's misbehaving and we're at a family member's house, or we're out in public, or we're here, there, how are we going to handle it? How are we going to handle discipline just in general? Have those conversations before you get into them. That way you can just kind of preserve a few more good moments with your wife. And then the second thing that's been big for me is that yes, you have kids, your schedule is going to continue to be more filled. So make sure that you're diligent with your wife. And even just talking about it now, I feel convicted to do this more, but to separate time for your wife to catch her breath, and then also find time to catch breath together and go out, even if it's something really mundane, like a budget meeting and going over your finances together. Make those times intentional. That way you can have conversations about, just kind of where your soul is at that moment with different topics. And just really make sure you set time aside to make sure that the two leaders of the team are in a good space to come back home and continue to try to create a good atmosphere for their children. Those would
Well,
be my two tidbits of advice.
yeah. Not to say I didn't think about the other questions, Brett. I promise I did. But I did kind of really spend some time thinking about what advice do I have? First of all, I feel like I'm not qualified to give any advice because I'm only a year and a half in. I'd be more curious to know,
You're a
obviously.
year. I was going to say a year is still that
Sure,
is not an
sure,
insignificant amount of time.
sure. But it's not
I get
John
what you're
Bird amount of
saying.
time. So uh but anyways, I would say sort of along the lines of what Gabe said in his first part, and I'm also going to piggyback on that second part as well. But the first part is like, if there's somebody listening to this and you're expecting a child, or you are just thinking about having a child one day, whether you are single right now or whether you're engaged or married and you just haven't taken that next step yet, find people that you love and that you trust and that you see are doing it well, and just spend time with them, surround yourself with them, and you're going to find that best within the church. You can find it at other places as well, but you're going to see it modeled in the most biblical way at a church. And for myself and Jameson, like, we had both of our mentors, our husband and wife, and so like the people who discipled us very deeply and intentionally, we got to actually do ministry with. For me, it was almost 5 years. For Jameson, it was about 2.5 after we got married. But they have 5 kids. They had three when we first got married, and then four, and then they now have a fifth. But we are no longer with them, living in the same place, that is. But like, as a single man before I got married, like, just getting to soak up time with them and watch them parent, watch them deal with conflict and all of those things and discipline and all of that was so sweet to me, and also so vital to like who I strive to be as a parent today. And like the time that they took to even allow me to be a part of family worship at times and stuff like that in their household, like, was such a sweet thing to be a part of. And I was like, man, I want that with my family one day as well. And then James and I getting married, we got to see some of those glimpses together and go on little day outings with their family, and see how those dynamics work. And it was just such a blessing. So my advice would be surround yourself with people who are already doing it and doing it well. You look at them from the outside and you say, I want, my family to look like this one day. And then the second part is also, again, picking back off of what Gabe said, but this was an answer that I thought pretty diligently about, and it is, make intentional time with your spouse to be one-on-one with them. Because, like, for me, I lived so long by myself. Like, I got used to like solitude and it was fine. And like I enjoy being in my own thoughts and doing my own thing. But my wife is not wired that way. Like, she likes to be around people. She likes to have conversations and all of these things. And when we were without kids, it was easy to kind of still have solitude, but also be intentional with my time with her. But now you throw a kid in the mix, it's like that is what gets majority of our time. So we have to be very, very much so aware of the time that we're spending together. And I have to check my own heart at times. I'm like, am I doing enough? And I definitely will say I could be doing better. But you do want to take that time to be with your spouse, to hear what's going on in their life, to share what's going on in yours. I know there are plenty of times that I can think about where I have so many things that I'm like wrestling with and pent up about. And I feel like if I would just utilize the time that we do have she would gladly listen to it, and she will gladly listen to it. I'm more so speaking of like more recent things that are going on that you guys know about. But yeah, just making that intentional time is so important to have with your spouse to make sure both of your souls are being nourished and cared for in the way that the Lord intended it to do through the picture of marriage that we have.
Yeah, I would give two bits of advice, and I'll do my best to make them nice and quick. The first is being a parent is awesome, and there should not be, I think, as many things as there is nowadays that would discourage people from having kids. But the thing that I'll say the most, I have never been a rich man. I'll never be a rich man. I mean, barring some kind of miracle from God, right?
Or a
Because very
best-selling
early on,
book.
well, we'll see. I got to finish the thing first. I was given this bit of advice early on when we were starting to think about having kids because I was worried about it. I was worried about how are we going to pay for kids? How are we going to do all this stuff? And the advice I got was, if you want kids, you'll find a way to pay for them, right? You may have to work a little bit harder. You may have to work a little bit more. But man, I'm so glad I listened to that. I don't have a massive bank account. What I have is 7, almost 8 years of memories with my oldest, a few less with Ezra, a few less with Job, a couple months with Mara, and it has been nothing but amazing. And the thing is, I'm an advocate for. I think married couples should have kids young. That's what I think. I think they should, and the reason is I've known quite a few couples that have spent they spend a decade together or whatever, and then they start trying to have kids. First of all, there's the biological component where things don't always work out that way, right? But more importantly is I can know a person better than I know anyone else, and the moment we've got 4 kids, we're both going to act very different than we ever thought we were going to. And so, sure, Kaylin and I, we had our first kid sometime in our second year of marriage when Paul was born. And so what I spent the last almost decade of my life getting to know my wife, but also getting to know my wife as the woman that she always wanted to be, which was a mother, someone caring for these kids. She got to know me as a dad, someone caring for these kids. And, I just think that's awesome that we got to do that. We got to put aside worries about money, worries about, are we going to have time for all this stuff? Are we going to be able to travel, do all this stuff? And we have a wonderful, adorable family, and I wouldn't give that up. Now, it means we may have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches a little bit more. I'm about to bring Spam into their life. They're about to be introduced to that. It's going to be dope. But I wouldn't trade it. I really wouldn't. It's just absolutely amazing. And if anything, it has forced Kaylin and I repeatedly over the years, even in the last few months, to lean on God and be like, hey, God says kids are a blessing. We believe him. We wanted them, and God has blessed us. It's not with a windfall of money. It's not with a brand new car, but it's with cherished moments with these kids where we get to teach them about God, love them, and grow together. So those are my 2.
This is my fire emoji, John.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good, dude.
And just real quick, Brett, I totally agree with John. Get married young and start having babies, man, because it is the best part of life so far. Like of the things I've gotten to experience as a 30-year-old, which really isn't very old, dude. If I could do anything over again, almost 30. Sorry, I pulled a Jacob there. I've known you guys for like 15 years. So, but no, dude, get married young and have kids. If I could do anything over again, it'd probably be marrying Emily straight out of high school. And knowing how crazy that sounds in today's world, dude, I wish we could have just started the whole journey sooner. And so
Same, but Jameson rejected me, so.
yeah.
But
All
I
right,
won
Brett.
in the end.
I do feel like I need to push back a little bit. Not push back, but just say like, I don't think that's true for everybody.
Sure.
I think
totally fair.
Yeah. And
Sure.
like for me and Danny, I think it was good that we had our separate colleges in time. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but like we left and then we knew immediately, oh, we should be together. And like,
Yeah.
it was good to have that separation for a moment, because when we were in high school, it was like, boy, did we really meet our soulmate at 14 years old? Like, that seems impossible. And we've never known life apart. And then when we did know life apart, it made it that much more special when we came back together. So I do think I don't think I'm in your boat. I should have gotten married sooner than I did, but not right out of high school. I would not have done that. So
Yeah, I'm
Just
saying
go-
that, of course, with hindsight of knowing that this is the right person for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Don't be a fool. Don't jump into it and be
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
And
But-
the same can be said
Yeah.
for kids. I'm an advocate of having kids young. I think that's good. I think I mean, if kids are a blessing, why am I going to wait for God to bless me?
Yeah.
No, like let's go. But
You'll
you
never
can
be ready for
absolutely-
kids. You're
You'll
never
never,
gonna like wait and
ever.
be like, it's about time to
Yeah.
have kids now. You're
But-
like, wow, I figured it out. I got it. Yeah.
There are also definitely scenarios that exist where rushing into having kids would be incredibly foolish, right? So, like I said, I'm an advocate for having kids early on. I'm not going to sit here and demand people,
Blanket statements,
subscribe to this. Yeah, like you do what's best for you guys. That was best for us, and I don't regret it. So,
Mhm.
Yeah. But like you said, John, there are so many factors in today's world that kind of tell people don't do it.
Right.
And so to push back with just,
Yeah.
four dudes in a podcast right now who a lot of people won't hear, I'm happy to be that pushback and say do it young. Because
100%.
yeah, same.
Yeah. And John hit it on the head. Like one of the main factors that I think if you were to go around people our age today, it would be like, I don't know if we can make it work like financially. And it's like, no, like you will be able to make it work. Like my wife, like John and I are in a similar boat. We both work in ministry. There's not a lot of money in ministry, but both of our
Yeah.
wives stay home and we
Don't
make it
lie.
work.
kidding.
Yeah, we make it work. Like you can do it, and it is still a joyful life. Like there's so much more to live for than like this whole, and not to say we're like living super uncomfortable. Like we have a great house and in a great neighborhood and all of that, but like you don't have to live a lavish lifestyle or even a super comfortable lifestyle in order to be able to think that you can afford to, raise children. Like they are going to be content with whatever you have, as long as you are caring for them well. Like it's
And
enough.
present. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And present.
Yeah, I would say the three things I've got is your life doesn't end with kids. It takes some self-sacrifice, certainly, but it's just another meaningful relationship in your life that you're going to
Mhm.
cherish beyond anything else. Embrace the day-to-day. Danny got a mug from, I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Love Every, but Ezra's grandma gives him that, and
Yeah,
it is awesome.
yeah.
And they gave a mug that said the days are long, but the years are short. And I was just like, holy cow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And Danny's like, that's the most common phrase ever. You've never heard that before? It's like, I'm sorry, but like that hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard that one just a couple months ago, I think.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it either.
The days
It's
are
brutal
long,
and it's
but
true.
the years are short.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, that is so true. And so, embrace the day-to-day. And then we've kind of hit on it in some of the other questions, but create routines early and you'll be surprised how much your kids fit into them. It's just like routines really give kids structure when their life is just kind of crazy and changing all the time. So just not just their life, but they themselves are changing all the time. So having structure really helps, I think.
I'll throw this last tidbit in here just because it's been on my mind recently, and I say advice: pray for your children often. Like, do not slack on that area. Pray for your spouse often as well. Like, I think oftentimes, and if you're listening to this and you are a believer, I think we have made less of this discipline for whatever reason it may be, whether it's because we don't actually see the effects of it at times or whatever it may be. What'd you say?
It's because tech, man. Our attention
Tech,
spans are cut.
our attentions are somewhere else or whatever it may be. But
I know
diligent.
it's ironic when we're on a podcast, but
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Be diligent to pray for your children. Be diligent to pray for the salvation of your children, and trust that the Lord will be faithful in answering those prayers according to His will. It is something that cannot be overstated. Like, and also pray for your children's spouse one day. Like, it is just so important to be in prayer for all of those things, and I just don't think it can be overstated. Like that, it is so important to just be constant in that discipline.
I think in honor of that, let's just end it with a prayer here real quick. So
Love it.
let's pray.
Yeah.
Dear God, we're thankful for this time that we've gotten to spend to just talk about being a father. And Lord, we hope that this conversation has been a benefit to somebody out there, if not just for us four here, five with Jacob. Lord, we just pray for each listener and their children. We pray for our children, and we just continue to pray for health for them. And we're so thankful for the blessing that they are. And we just pray that whether it be the grandparents, the uncles, the aunts, the people that are longing to be parents, we just pray that you be with each person in their situation and help them to help raise this next generation of kids who need it as much as anyone. Lord, we just are so grateful for your son and his sacrifice. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Love you guys. Talk to y'all later.
Yep. Jacob's been complaining about being on this podcast and then left early.
I know. I had to make the amendment in the prayer. It's like, oh, God knows that. Yeah.